What's happening, everybody? So, crazy last 2 days in NBA free agency. Basically, contracts galore, money thrown out left and right. So, we got a full panel here tonight. We got a bunch of new guys, so I'm going to roll through and let everybody introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves, and we'll get started going through all the crazy contracts. So, guys, whoever wants to start it out, go ahead. Not all at once.
I guess I'll start it off. So, Mike Conley.
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's Mike Conley?
Hey, we're gonna have to bump some money off of you, man. If you're Mike Conley, we all better end up rich after the show.
That's right.
I'm Byron. Happy to be here. Shall I proceed with Mike Conley, or are we all introducing ourselves?
No, everybody's going through, man. Come on.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Brandon.
Brandon.
Happy to be here.
Q. All right, hey, we got my man Q.
Yo, I'm Q. I do a podcast called Off the Bench with my boy Ryan. We talk about just mainly basketball, stuff like this. It's very similar to this, but we just do it on audio. We all do video. I guess I should tell y'all, like, my favorite team is the Sixers, obviously.
Nice. I got somebody to back me up.
Yeah, you know, I like the Sixers. Everything Philly is basically me, so it is what it is.
All right, good deal. John, we all know who you are, but reintroduce yourself, formerly known as Greedy Rashidi, but...
That's right. It's John Markish. I'm the artist formerly known as Greedy Rashidi, 2K Sports roster editor. I am in retirement now and trying to enjoy that. But you guys were able to dig me out for the show, so excited to be here.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right, go Matt.
I'm Matt. Most everybody knows who I am by now. You know, I've been doing this for what? When did Czar bring me on? Like about this time last year for his free agent show. So it's kind of ironic that we got all these guys on here, and my first one was talking free agency last year, and we were complaining about contracts then, and it's even crazier this year.
All right, good segue there, Matt. So we're gonna roll back to Byron since he was itching so bad to be Mike Conley. Go ahead and start it off with Mike Conley, Byron.
Well, Mike Conley, the biggest contract in NBA history. What can I say? He's never been an All-Star. It's unbelievable. Everything I've seen thus far is unbelievable because it seems like in so many ways this has been a year for like the underdogs. And when you look at all of the greats, like Michael Jordan himself, arguably the best basketball player of all time, he never got a contract as lucrative as the one that Mike Conley has. Now the pressure is on. And I think like previously on a previous show we talked about like how some teams are going to reemerge. Like in one in particular, the Lakers. If you look at this year's the free agency stuff going on, the new thing is we're gonna buy our team into a contender. We're gonna buy championship rings now. It's unbelievable. I didn't think he was gonna go anywhere. I was pretty certain that he was gonna stay put, but now he has to bring something to the franchise. Is he worth the money? Is he a franchise player? I can't really say that he is. You know, it's gonna be a real interesting season for the Grizzlies.
So the Grizzlies basically signed him to a max contract. They also signed Chandler Parsons. So those two together, do they form a contender out west? John, what you got, man?
The Grizzlies as contenders? I don't know about that. You know, they've always been on the cusp, but they're just lacking like that superstar that can take them to the next level. But I think them keeping Conley, and Conley was a real threat to leave. There were a lot of teams interested in him, so the Grizzlies definitely did have to overpay in order to ensure that they would keep things together, because they just gave Marc Gasol, his extension. Zach Randolph's going to be around for a little bit, so they still have incentive to keep him around. And if it ends up being like a bad contract for like the last 2 years, it is what it is, because they need to, do what they're going to do these next few and see what they can do.
What you think, Brandon?
I actually agree with what he just said, man. I like Mike Conley. I know Mike Conley has never been an All-Star, and I don't know. That's a lot of money that they just gave him. But I think otherwise he was going to leave. And although he might not have been like an NBA All-Star or whatever, I think he's probably the most important piece to that team. That's just my opinion. But I mean, he makes them go. They got other pieces around them. I know they just added Chandler Parsons. But I don't know. I think he just kind of the guy that makes their team go. I think without him, they might not even make the playoffs in the West.
Okay. What you think, Q?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think he's worth it. I like Mike Conley a lot. I think he's probably, a lot of people will think this is blasphemous, but Mike Conley could be considered a top 5 point guard. If you look at every single stat, you look at the way he affects his team, player efficiency rating, he's up there with people like Chris Paul and even prime D Rose. He was almost at that level. Only reason he hasn't been All-Star is because he's not in that big market. He's not being exposed the way that someone like a CP3 or a Westbrook are. He doesn't get the highlight plays. Well, he makes the necessary plays. Mike Conley reminds me of Isaiah Thomas, just in the fact that he's so integral to that entire team. He has a whole bunch of bruisers around him, but he's the spark plug that makes the whole thing go. So I think we're in the age where guys are going to get overpaid. We're in the age now where people like a water boy is going to get $10 million a season now. And we just have to accept that. We just got to deal with that. But I think Mike Conley was worth the money because he makes that team go. You saw what happened when he came back against Portland last year in the playoffs, not this season but the season prior. He willed them to that series. Without Conley, they might have lost. But I think he's worth it.
In defense of Mike Conley and his accolades, the West has been stacked with guards for quite a while. He's like, in the East he would be an all-star for sure, but in the West he's like the number 6 point guard. And in fairness to his contract, the timing of the CBA of the cap just like doubling. This was not a great free agent market. Aside from Durant, he's pretty much the best. He's the best realistic target for any team. And he was easily the best point guard available, unless anybody's still riding that Rajon Rondo bandwagon. Mike Conley, he's what you guys said. He's never been an all-star, but he's also probably the best player in NBA history to never make an all-star team.
Okay. All right, Matt, you got anything to add to that?
All fair points. Those are all fair points to the hell. Everybody saw my Twitter rant on Mike Conley about him being the highest player. I think that's the thing that gets everybody. I think he's the highest. He's got the biggest contract in NBA history, which is probably at next year. Hell, I mean, LeBron may get $200 million, and no one will bat an eye. But I agree with what everybody said. He is the heart and soul of that team. Without Mike Conley, that team would have been just disastrous this year. Like, who's going to be their point guard? Jordan Farmar?
Yeah, I mean, it was disastrous this last year when he got hurt. It completely fell apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the Grizzlies, if anything, they know the value of Mike Conley better than.
Yes, I mean, and like everybody, you've got to overpay. You've got to overpay guys now. That's just. And I think I don't want to segue into something, but I know it's not on our little list, but J.J. Redick made the comment on Twitter about, if you don't understand a basic concept of economics, don't complain about the guys to now and, 15 years ago. While most of us might disagree with him, it's just crazy to think about. Like, he kind of has a point, but, does he have a point? You know what I mean?
And that's the thing with
So.
yeah, Mike Conley basically, they had no other options. Chandler Parsons is a different story. There were some other options out there. I think that Parsons was choosing between Portland and Memphis. There was no way he was going back to Dallas. Same thing with Mike Conley. He was looking at Dallas and Memphis. Basically now with Hassan Whiteside signing back to a max deal with Miami, it's all the free agents are avoiding the Dallas Mavericks. What do you think is going on with the Dallas Mavericks on why these free agents won't go there? It's almost like a curse since DeAndre Jordan spurned them a year ago.
I think people don't think they're going to win.
Exactly. The pieces aren't there. They're Dirk is on his way out of the league. I give him a year or two left. There's just not enough pieces there. There's no allure for people to go there because they know they don't want to win. It seems like people. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I
man.
was going to say, if you don't get, we know Darren Williams is going to leave. So they have no point guard except J.J. Barea.
Who ended up better than
J.J. Barea can come off the bench. Yeah, well, yeah. J.J. Barea can come off the bench and be a really, he can be a nice spark plug off the bench.
You don't like Raymond Felton?
Things, but I mean, he can do something. Nobody's going to Dallas to play with Raymond Felton. No knock on Raymond Felton. He's in the league. He can hoop. Nobody's going to play with Raymond Felton, though. And they know Dirk is got 2-3 years left max. That's it. Yeah. So I think players just know if I want to go to, I'm not going to win a championship going there. Well, so is it fair to ask now, does Dirk re-sign? Is he going to spend the last couple years of his career on a losing team? Or does he go to, Golden State or somewhere else?
I don't think Dallas is ever going to be a losing team as long as Dirk Nowitzki's there. He's still good enough
exactly
to get them to 500, which is part of the problem because they can't actually go through a rebuild.
Exactly.
They're just doing like patchwork jobs every year. But I mean, I wouldn't call it them cursed because they had DeAndre Jordan. They were about to steal him and have like a really good team. They signed Wesley Matthews, and the year before they signed Chandler Parsons. So it's not like they haven't been signing players.
Right.
Just this year, I think they've really dropped the ball and not been able to. They were really putting all their eggs in like the Mike Conley basket because they need a long-term point guard who's going to be this year out there. They really dropped the ball and not been able to.
Well, basically with Dallas, some of the options that they they had. Jared Dudley was an option at small forward, Luol Deng. Now they're looking at paying a max deal on July 7th to Harrison Barnes. So basically it's $95 million to Harrison Barnes because you struck out in free agency. I'm happy. Q, you might agree with this because as a Sixers fan, I don't want Harrison Barnes for max money.
I don't like Harrison Barnes. I don't want Harrison Barnes. I have no respect for Harrison Barnes. He was weak in the finals, man. I don't want one thing about Harrison Barnes is that they always talk about how dude got like confidence issues. I don't need my players to have anxiety and all that. I don't need that stuff, man. I need players to be confident, ready to shoot the ball.
Hey, we definitely got that in Jared Bayless. So
I'm good with him. I'm fine with Jared Bayless. We need a stopgap point guard. But I want to bring this back to Dallas because the thing that's really scary about Dallas is the fact that they're stuck. They owe their first-round pick next year to Denver, if I'm not mistaken, in the 2017 draft class. And if you all watched the hoops, you know that 2017 is supposed to be that year. People saying it might even rival 2003. So we might see some great guards, and then Dallas is going to miss out on them again because they thought way too soon because they wanted to go immediately instead of thinking about the future. And Mark Cuban, he might be able to get a couple of free agents here to keep them mediocre, but ever since 2011, how they just – I don't even know how they even beat Miami still. But ever since they beat Miami, their potential for winning a championship every single year has diminished greatly. It's almost as bad as, I could say like when the Lakers signed Kobe for those 2 years and they thought they would still contend because people wanted to come play. They didn't have anything. Same thing here with Dallas. Like Dirk, he should go. Mark Cuban should give him the pass to go, and then they should try to focus on just being as bad as possible.
Okay.
I'm kind
Yeah,
of
hey,
with you on that. I'm kind of with them on that because I don't feel like, like now there seems such an urgency to bring in like free agents, but when they had a cohesive unit that was winning, they did things like they traded, they got rid of Tyson Chandler, and they made too many. They did too many things that just proved
it was
that.
that was the one year. That was the one year Mark Cuban was not wanting to pay guys.
Yep.
Amazingly, he didn't want to pay Tyson Chandler.
Right. And now it's like
Yeah.
you're trying to play, like I agree with Q, it's like now you're trying to play like, catch up. And at this point, it's just too late. I think that if Dirk leaves or whatever happens, they get stuck with like a Harrison Barnes or something. And for him, that might be better because he'll learn from Dirk Nowitzki. I think that'll be a good look for him for his personal game. I think he only has room to improve because he's a bigger guy, kind of like how Dirk is, and there will be room for improvement. But I think as far as just that team is concerned, I'm going to have to agree with Q. Just be as horrible as you can for the next few years and do some rebuilding. But I don't think that it'll be too long before I might be reaching before the Texas Triangle comes back. And I don't want to get on Houston. We don't have to talk about Houston this whole.
There ain't nothing to talk about except Ryan Anderson so far. So.
Hey, I'm gonna leave your Sixers alone. Leave my.
Hey, until we get in the season, there ain't nothing to talk about. We got potential. So Houston, they did the right thing. They let Dwight Howard walk. So speaking of Dwight Howard, the Atlanta Hawks, 3 years, $70.5 million contract. Al Horford just signed with the Boston Celtics, so he's basically somewhere different. They put Paul Millsap in trade talks with Phoenix, and there was a couple other teams rumored just in case Horford came back. Kent Bazemore signed for 4 years, $70 million. With the Atlanta Hawks, basically they overachieved 2 seasons ago. Last season we saw how bad they were in the playoffs. They traded Jeff Teague and handed the point guard role to Dennis Schroeder with no depth behind Kyle Korver or Schroeder. What do you guys think of the chances of the Atlanta Hawks so far with no post-game Dwight in there? Mike, I'm going to roll to you first since you're hopping on late. Give you a chance to start it out.
I think the Atlanta Hawks have no chance in the East next year. Zero. I feel as though this Atlanta Hawks team needed a star. And if they thought they were getting that in Dwight Howard, they are very confused. They are very delusional. Dwight Howard is well documented. He has not improved his game much since he's entered the league. He does not shoot free throws. Outside of blocking shots occasionally, getting rebounds, he's a liability if he's not getting touches. And with an offense that works on passing and ball movement, I'm curious to see how he's going to fit in there. It's almost like Sacramento last year. It's like everyone was waiting for it to blow up with Cousins, with Rondo, with George Karl as the coach. Like, that's a volatile mix. Now you're taking an offensive-minded team where you share the ball with a guy who's notoriously selfish and notoriously out to be the man. So I don't see the Hawks doing much. They might sneak in maybe a 7th seed, 6 maybe. That's probably as high as I give them.
Okay. Brandon, what you think, man?
I think the Atlanta Hawks, it depends on how you look at it, because I'm a Rockets fan. So I love the Atlanta Hawks right now. I want to say thank y'all if y'all
Hey,
listen.
everybody, Brandon is from Houston.
Yeah,
He's
I
representing his
just want to say
hometown.
thank you very much. I think that's a fantastic move for them. Okay. No, honestly, man, Dwight Howard is unbelievably talented. Is unbelievably talented. Just it's crazy how he doesn't ever play up to his potential. At least he hasn't ever since he left Orlando. He's just been, I don't know, man. It seems like he's been a head case everywhere he's gone. He had problems in LA, then he came to Houston. He had problems everywhere there. So I don't know. Well, I mean, maybe he'll be fine in Atlanta because maybe he'll get the ball more. I don't know. But I mean, even that being said, man, I don't feel like Dwight Howard has done a whole lot to improve his post game at all. I mean, at all. I don't, he can catch. He's gonna catch a bunch of lobs because he's 7 foot tall. He has an unbelievable vertical. I mean, but I haven't seen Dwight Howard make a fantastic low post move. I mean, maybe 3 times.
The cardboard cutout poster of Paul George for NBA 2K17 has moved around more than Dwight Howard has in the post. So,
Hey, Byron. Hey, Byron. Let everybody know how Hakeem Olajuwon feels about Dwight Howard.
Oh man, you got to bring that back.
Hakeem,
You gotta
bro,
bring it back. Let him know, Byron.
Hakeem don't even want to work out with the Rockets no more because of Dwight Howard. He telling like the general manager of the Rockets like, I cannot do it. No. They're like, Hakeem, we need you to work with Dwight Howard. No. I know you. You cannot fool me. That boy is so dumb that I told that boy to get in the paint. And you know what he did to me? He said that he wants to shoot a 3. I said, you are so dumb. I know why you did not go to college. Because you are so dumb that you had to enter the NBA draft at 18 years of age. No, I'm not going to do it. No.
What you touch on, even though it's funny, what he touches on is true. Because I remember in the playoffs 2015, in the middle of the series, he's on the sideline talking to T-Mac. And I'm like, 4 chairs down is Olajuwon.
And you know what he was saying? He was telling Clyde Drexler, he was like, you see how dumb that boy is? Huh? You see him? He will see me sitting here and he wants to talk to Tracy. A girl's name. Huh? Tracy, a girl's name. That's why he plays like a girl. Because it's a girl's name. Huh? And he will see me with my 2 rings. Huh? And he wants to talk to Tracy. I don't believe this.
But that's the honest truth.
Well, Tracy knows what it's like to not get out of the first round, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, so moving on, I want to touch on some of the contracts that just kind of made me shake my head. First one being, I think everybody agrees with this, Timothy Mozgov going to the Lakers for a 4-year, $64 million contract. So basically, you take a guy that didn't play in the NBA Finals barely, and you sign him to be your starting center. Then you pay him more than Jordan Clarkson, who's on your own team. And if you're Jordan Clarkson, you got to be looking at that contract and tearing that shit up and re-signing that thing.
But who's Jordan Clarkson, though?
Exactly.
That guy's like good numbers on a bad team, like.
Hey, I take Jordan Clarkson on my Sixers. We can sign him to a max deal right now.
Now, he's fine.
I'll take that $58 million max deal.
I disagree. Completely serious. I don't like the 4th year, but I do. I like the signing actually. The reason why I like the signing, hear me out, is because I think this was actually a Luke Walton type of move. Mm-hmm. Luke Walton knows that the Lakers are not going anywhere. They're not even. They're probably not even going to be a 9th seed. They're going to be terrible. And what I think they're trying to do here is let's find our Bogut. Everyone's going to get overpaid. Let's try to groom the young guys. I was reading a couple tweets from a couple of beat writers for LA, and they was talking about how this move makes sense because Luke Walton wants to preach development and patience with his young core. So what do you need? You need a center who can just block shots and run screens just like Bogut. Now, I understand Timofey only played like 3 minutes the entire season, but that was due to the fact that he did have an injury that did not get treated from last season, and he tried to run on it in training camp, and he re-injured it. So I think the move is going to pay off for the players who matter to LA. You know, Timofey, he's not in the big picture, but his development for, you know, Russell, Clarkson, Ingram, and Randall, that's a good young core to have. And if you can bring in a veteran guy who can just set screens and be your Bogut, then I think Luke Walton will be able to do a lot with that, actually. I think it's a solid move. It's not going to be earth-shattering. It's not going to be, you know, heaven-moving. But it's going to be a good move for those four guys. It's not going to be, you know, oh, Timofey Mozgov is taking over the NBA. No, it's not going to happen. But that's going to be key for them a couple years down the line, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I know Matt is a Lakers fan, and a lot of Lakers fans were really speaking out about the signing. Like, they want some big names. They feel, you know, they got the Lakers lore. They feel entitled to those big names. Yet at the same time, Luke is looking at it from a realistic standpoint, and I completely agree. They need to develop these young players. And the worst way to develop young players is to make them do things that they don't do well. You know, be shot blockers. You know, Julius Randle can rebound, but he's not your shot blocker. You have Mozgov back there. Julius Randle can do his job. He can defend, get the rebound, run the floor, start the outlet. You know, Jordan Clarkson and those guys, they can just stay out on the perimeter, and they can take more risks because you got a rim protector back there. And let's not forget, this time, you know, last February 2015 at the trade deadline, when the Cavaliers got Mozgov, people were calling him the steal of the season. So Mozgov can play. He's shown that he can play. He's shown he can block shots, he can defend, he can rebound. He's not going to be a big scoring threat. Throw him a couple lobs every now and then. But he fortifies that inside. He lets other guys do their job and not have to worry about the guy that's behind them. Plus, leadership. You get a veteran guy in there that's been in huddles, been in locker rooms, been to the finals, can give those guys some structure. And I want a backdoor. I love the Luau Deng move because that's another veteran guy. Like, I'm in complete agreement. The Lakers are not going to win this year. They're not going to win enough games to make the playoffs. However, what they're developing, the habits they're putting in these players now, Deng and Mozgov could be the type of guys that teach these kids and mentor these kids how to be pros, how to be professional athletes and compete in the NBA. And that'll show in practice. It'll show on the floor. It's not going to show up in the records right away, but give it some time. And that's what Lakers fans have to do right now. They got to be patient.
I think a lot of teams have to be real patient because I think we're in the new generation of NBA where Boston, LA, New York, you're no longer going to get big name free agents because, hey, look, we got girls' drinks in Hollywood Boulevard. Oh, look, we got 17 banners and things that we did back when black people couldn't even play in the NBA. We got, we got, New York pizza. We got Spike Lee on the sideline. Come be a part of that. No, that's not going to work. You have to show players what can I do for you, either short term or long term. And a lot of stars want the short term. That's why you're not going to get a KD to even take a meeting with you. Like, you remember last season, the Lakers had the wrong approach with Byron Scott. They went to LaMarcus Aldridge and talked to him about how he could become a reality star or something. It was just terrible. And he walked out of the meeting, and they had to get another meeting to clarify, no, that's not all we can do. We're also trying to win now. And that's a bad impression on stars. So the thing that I think that a lot of teams like LA, Dallas needs to do this, Philly did this, Boston did this. They're rebuilding from the ground up because they're realizing they're not going to get, the LeBron James to come because, hey, look, we got pizza Hollywood Boulevard and 17 banners. It's not going to happen anymore. You got to show them what you're going to do for them long term or short term. You know.
Just
Mhm.
to
It's like
piggyback
I
off what
said on the
Mike
last show, the GM. I mean, it's not like you have a mastermind in LA anymore, or like a Jerry West who's who has that foresight and who's bringing guys in and who recognizes uh, real talent. And so it is with the Knicks. It's just like I agree with you because it would take a lot. Like people are saying now, like not to segue into that, but I mean I know we'll get there. But like now the talk is Dwayne Wade possibly going to the Knicks, and it's like really, bro, you want to play with Carmelo? Like that's not enough to get me to play for the Knicks in the long term and in the short term because again it's like these players like the big names they want that instant gratification. Like a dude like KD's been playing in a small market for so long. Well, he went from Seattle to now Oklahoma City, and it's like, okay, I want to win. You know what I mean? And I want to go someplace where I'm going to win immediately. And I think that we are kind of gravitating away from. Well, we're kind of I shouldn't say gravitating. We're getting away from that. The whole I want to play for this market because I want to live in LA or I want to live in New York because this, that, and the third is there. I think that when you see what's going on in like a New York right now, you've got Derrick Rose, who I don't think he's done. I think he could still do something, now that he's in a new situation. But I gotta agree with Q. There's no way I'm playing with the tall Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony. I wouldn't. If I know that I'm still in my prime, I can't do it because it's still the fact remains is like they're still not winning situations, and the history itself enough is not it's not enough to get anybody who's serious about winning.
Speaking of the Knicks, they just they signed Courtney Lee. So basically, that's going to be their two guard. 4 years, $50 million. Of course, they also got Joakim Noah early in free agency, 4 years, $72 million. To me, that's a formidable squad if they can stay healthy. Well, if Derrick Rose can stay healthy and Joakim Noah can stay healthy. Real quick, and we can go back to the Knicks, but Jan Mahinmi signed a 4 year, $64 million deal with the Washington Wizards. Once the Wizards knew that they struck out on Al Horford, they moved quickly to get Mahinmi as a backup center there. And then finally, Eric Gordon just signed with the Houston Rockets.
Wow.
It's like 4 years, $53 million. But it's kind of puzzling to me because he's probably more than likely going to be a six-man there, which, he may end up working out for spacing. But with James Harden there, you're not going to start. So interesting moves there. But want to roll back to the Knicks real quick. What do the Knicks look like this season as they're currently constructed as far as being, a fifth through AC? Do you think that's possible for them, or do they miss the playoffs again? Whoever wants to take it, go.
I don't think that team is going to be. Well, I think with a guy like Carmelo Anthony, he has to learn how to play team ball. I get frustrated watching him play because he's very gifted naturally. His skill set is amazing, but he makes some of the worst decisions. A player who's been in the league this long, and he's even won at Syracuse. I don't know how he makes the decisions that he makes and how this guy is still so selfish. And it reminds me of Allen Iverson, when they, I think that there was enough talent around. There was the Jerry Stackhouses, the Larry Hughes, all these guys they traded away. Tim Thomas to appease him. Now imagine if they would have had those guys when they played Los Angeles. It might have been more of a series. And I think the same thing with like Carmelo Anthony, he had good enough players around him when he was in Denver. You put LeBron James on that team and tell me that they won't win. And that's the thing. It's just that even with a Noah, who's more of a defensive type of guy, he'll bang and he'll get some boards and he'll score here and there. I just don't see that team doing much. I still don't see it. They'll be a contender, but they're not going to. I don't know.
I think you can break down contender. It's like anytime someone's a contender, I think
Well,
of it somebody
they'll make the playoffs. That's what I mean.
That's not a contender to me.
They'll make the playoffs.
They'll win 42 games.
Well,
That's in the
make
mix.
the playoffs last year. This past season. That's what I'm saying. Like they'll make the playoffs, but I don't see them being a cohesive. Like it's going to take a while for them to gel. I mean, like I said, I don't think Rose is completely done. Now that he's in a new app, because there's a lot of other factors that go into Rose. I mean, the charges against him, the criminal charge, him living in his hometown. I think there's a lot of distractions there that he won't have to deal with this coming season. And we'll see. It's their fresh start. But I think they'll make the playoffs, but not a high seed.
I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. I said this on the podcast that I do probably like a couple of days ago, actually. I'm not in love with what they're doing, but I understand it. And what makes sense about them is we all don't realize it, but we are in the middle of a 30 for 30. ESPN represents the rose that grew from concrete. And this could be the chapter where the rose goes to the garden and blossoms, or he goes to the garden and he wilts. And this could be a triumph or a tragedy. And I will say this, Carmelo Anthony, his best years have always come when he has a ball-dominant point guard. Because I'm going to just say a truth that many people might not want to hear. Carmelo Anthony is a glorified second option. I got to say it. The stats back it up. It's just true. When Allen Iverson was in Denver, he got most of the ball. He took the ball in, and Carmelo spotted up for open shots, and Iverson got him the ball when he needed to because they were trying to double him. So for that 1 year, you saw what he could do. You saw what he did when he had Baron Davis. You saw what he did when he had people like Marbury. It happens to be that Carmelo is in the stage of his career where he's not the guy anymore. And he hasn't been the guy for a long time since he faced Kobe in that Western Conference Finals, I believe so, if not the second round. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't been that guy since.
It was conference final.
Yeah. And the problem is we have to see if Rose can stay healthy. Personally, I think Joakim Noah is washed, but we have to see what that does. He might be able to get you some blocks or rebounds here and there, but I don't think he's going to be worth any of that contract. And Porzingis, this is not good for his development. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I think the best way to develop your young guys is to put good veterans around him and let him grow by grooming what he does the best. And he wants to go out past, the elbows. He wants to shoot threes. But instead, you're going to have him with this team. And he can still do that. But if you're going to have a ball-dominant point guard like Derrick Rose and Carmelo Anthony, then you're not going to get that many touches for the young guys. So it's not going to work out the way I think it is. I think Milwaukee has a better chance of making it over them. I think the Wizards are definitely going to make the playoffs this year if Beal can stay healthy. And I think the Nets have a better chance of being better than the Knicks, man. I think cohesiveness is going to be a problem. I think coaching is going to be a problem because I don't believe in Jeff Hornacek. And I don't believe in Phil Jackson. I think it's going to be a mess. I think it's going to be a mess, man. It's going to be bad.
Actually, I got to co-sign on that because in the larger scale, it's either going to be a massive triumph or a major tragedy because you have all these guys that, nobody wanted. Nobody wanted, the Bulls didn't want Rose anymore. Obviously, Joakim, Courtney Lee's been a journeyman. Hornacek lost his coaching job in Phoenix when, being a 9th or 10th seed in the West is no consolation prize. It's going to be interesting to see what offense they run, how they gel, how Hornacek coaches them, and of course, if they can stay healthy. And I completely agree. If Derrick Rose more than anything, this will either be the next chapter of a great story that ends well or a tragedy. There's really no in between for this team. Even Melo's at that point in his career when everyone's saying he's so selfish. He's had great players with him. Like a few years ago, he had Stoudemire, he had J.R. Smith, Shumpert, Jason Kidd, and they were contenders for a minute. And now all of that's gone. They had Tyson Chandler. They had all these guys, and all that's gone now. So it's like this is kind of a last gas for a lot of these guys. So we'll see if they come together and say us versus the world, or they just say, man, I got my check. I'm good.
John, I'm going to give you last
hey, yeah.
How many games did Derrick Rose play in the playoffs this past year?
0. The Bulls didn't make the playoffs.
They didn't make the playoffs, even though he was healthy, and they had a better squad than the Knicks do right now. Jimmy Butler's probably a better player than Carmelo Anthony right now. Certainly, he's going to play more games than Carmelo Anthony.
But speaking as a Bulls fan, that season was a complete disaster for the fact that Jimmy Butler and Rose couldn't get along, that Jimmy Butler and the head coach Hoiberg couldn't get along, the fact that they brought in Hoiberg with this supposedly revolutionary up-tempo offense, and you have this veteran team that isn't built to run like that.
Right.
It was literally like a train wreck. All-Star break, I felt like this team might make the playoffs.
But Mike, what's going to happen with this team? Because you got a bunch of guys who need the basketball in their hands.
Right.
Yep.
Honestly,
I think. Hey, John, go ahead, John. Hey, John, go ahead, man. I know you got some. I know you got something for us.
Well, I'm just saying the Bulls team last year, they had talent. They had Pau Gasol, who made an All-Star team again. They had Jimmy Butler, who was an All-Star. Derrick Rose, he was the third best guy on that team, but he was taking more shots than both of those guys. So I don't know how Rose is going to be able to play with Carmelo Anthony. Because still, Rose can't shoot the 3-ball. Say what you will about Jose Calderon in the Knicks and how terrible he was defensively, but at least Calderon knew his role. What is Rose going to do with Melo and Porzingis? Because he can't play off of Melo because he can't shoot the 3-ball, and because teams don't have to respect his outside shooting, I don't know how good the pick-and-roll game is going to be with Porzingis, so that might hinder his development a bit. And Joakim Noah, he's a 0 offensively now. I also think he's cooked. You can't do it. You can't run any pick-and-roll action with him. They only have 5 guys under contract, so they still have plenty more pieces they need to add. Rose is only under contract for 1 year, so this is very much a rental. I hope for the guy that he doesn't go the route of Steve Francis. And, where did he go after the Knicks? He was out the league.
Oh,
wow.
That's true.
This is basically just Penny Hardaway when he got traded to Phoenix.
Let's leave Steve Francis out of this. Let's leave Steve Francis out of this.
There's lots of guys.
So, Q, you brought up
Larry Hughes and Tim Thomas. We can bring Steve Francis into this.
You brought up a good
go
point
ahead.
about the Milwaukee Bucks. I just kind of want to segue into them. They made 2 minor moves. Mirza Teletovic, basically he's a guy that Jason Kidd's liked since his days in Brooklyn. He basically signs, it was a 3-year deal, $30 million, so basically $10 million a year. That's going to be good for them because they can stretch the floor. He can provide shooting. And then Matthew Dellavedova signs a 4-year, $38.4 million contract. I'm gonna roll to Brandon first. Since you're kind of a point guard, you play in the D League. Does this make you feel like you can make an NBA roster at least that much better now that Dellavedova signed that big of a deal? Because he is a marginal offensive point guard, good defensively, but I think it gives hope to a lot of up-and-coming guards to make the NBA rosters.
Yeah, I actually like Dellavedova. I liked him in Cleveland for what he did defensively, obviously. I think last year in the finals, whenever he played good defense on Steph Curry, and Steph missed some shots, and people were talking about he was the Steph Curry stopper. I think they went a little bit too far. But I did actually I like Dellavedova. I'm trying to keep the money out of it because, like we've already talked about that. You know, they're throwing money at everybody right now. They're throwing money at everybody, so I'm trying to keep the money out of this. But yeah, I don't know about that one. This is going to be interesting to see, man. What is he? I mean, is he supposed to come in and be like a starter for this team, or is he supposed to be a great backup where he's going to get 25 minutes? And what do you expect him to do with that? I'm just not 100% sure. I think he fit in well with Cleveland because he didn't really have a huge responsibility offensively for them. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he can do something special. Because I'm just guessing he's going to get more minutes.
Jason Kidd likes defense, so I think he has a really good chance. Q, I'm going to roll to you because you can talk about NCW a little bit and how bad he was in Philly. And so that basically gives an open, basically an open spot for Dellavedova, in my opinion, to overtake that starting role. If not, I mean, you can still roll Antetokounmpo, as the point forward rather than playing Michael Carter-Williams.
I think isn't Antetokounmpo gonna be the starting guard though?
I don't think he is. I think they're gonna just play him like we'll play Ben Simmons and Philly.
Well, he's not the starting guard. He's going to play the 3 and guard threes, but they need somebody who's going to guard the point guard, and that's definitely.
Yeah.
What's going on in
CW, I think, is going to come off the bench. That's what they discussed already.
Milwaukee's weird, but I like it because it's just like we need some weird teams in the NBA, man. But the thing that makes me like these two moves is, one, you have someone who can space the floor and shoot, because Lord knows Milwaukee needs shooting like it's no tomorrow. And then they got a point guard who can control tempo. You got a point guard who can run with Giannis, and you got a point guard who can defend, be a point guard. Now, what this move for Milwaukee is basically almost akin to what Philly just did by signing Bayless. You have a guy who, in the forward, a 3 or a 4, most likely in the NBA, who is going to dominate the ball most of the possession, right? He's going to dominate most possessions. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot of the time. So what you need is a guy who can guard the smaller guards, because honestly, you don't want to see Giannis trying to guard Kyrie. You don't want to see him trying to guard John Wall. That's just not right. It's not fair to him. So you bring in a point guard who can do that. Bring in a point guard who can control the tempo and pacing, and you have a guy who has locker room experience, has championship experience, and you have a guy who can literally say that he did lock up Steph Curry for 2 games. Now, how many guys can say that? And I think both those moves are going to help the Bucks in the long term. I think both these moves help the development of the young players also. And I got to give a standing ovation to the GM, because these are the type of moves that you should be making if you are a young squad, because you don't want to ruin your development, man. You don't want to know what a player could have been if you just given him what he needed. And I think a lot of teams in the NBA are guilty of pushing their young prospects into bad positions and in bad teams, and then pulling out on their contracts later on and saying, well, he's a bust. No, he's not a bust. Your organization was a bust. So I think this is a great move for both of those guys, the shooting and the defense from Delhi.
Okay. Orlando Magic. They've kind of made some noise so far in free agency. Jeff Green signed a 1-year deal, $15 million. Today they just signed Bismack Biyombo, 4 years, $72 million. Basically, Biyombo was told, according to reports, that he's going to start at center, which basically makes Nikola Vucevic expendable at center. Based on his contract, he basically is easily movable. He'll get a lot of interest there. But Q, going back to kind of what you just talked about, hindering some of the development, it makes it seem like the Magic are pushing Hazonia and Aaron Gordon kind of, back a little bit by getting Ibaka, getting having Jody Meeks there, and having they re-signed Evan Fournier as well. DJ Augustine signed. So a lot of basically positions are packed full, but the development time for Gordon, who could have started at small forward, now he'll probably get pushed to the bench for Jeff Green, or back up Ibaka at the 4, and then Hazonia, who's a 2-3. That basically says they're going to wait another year to kind of see what he could do. And then Gordon, this is a pivotal year for him to kind of prove what he can do based off of, showing what he could do last year, which he did pretty well in spots. And then, of course, everybody knows about the dunk contest.
Can I touch on that?
Yeah, go.
I'm very passionate about this subject because here in Philly, we do this thing called trust the process, and that is exactly what the Magic did not do. I'm pissed off at the Magic because if you told me last summer who were the best rebuilding teams, you would say number 1, Minnesota, number 2 and 3 would be debatable between Boston and the Magic, and you probably have Utah somewhere down the line. Now, just think about this starting 5 that they had. They had Elfrid Payton, they had Victor Oladipo, they had Tobias Harris, they have Aaron Gordon, and they have Vucevic. You have guys who are offensively challenged, but you have athleticism also on the bench with Hazonia because that was another draft pick. So you have all these good young prospects. You have a good veteran in Vooch who can groom your guys to be what you need to be. Now, the problem comes in when you bring in dumbass GMs and trying to speed up what nature is going to do on its own. They're trying to speed up the process in Orlando, and it's ruined. It's completely ruined. It's soiled. It's done. They have nothing in Orlando that is making me look like they could do something. No, it's over. That shit is done. Orlando has completely ruined their rebuild because now you have
I disagree with this entirely.
It's cool, but I'm going to tell you what. Aaron Gordon is now on the bench. He's buried behind Ibaka. He's buried behind Vucevic, probably going to get traded, and he's buried behind Bismack Biyombo. I personally think Bismack Biyombo was an overachiever in the playoffs, and I don't think he's that good, but that's just me. And I just do not like the fact that they traded Oladipo, Sabonis, and Ilyasova for a guy who is going to be there for 1 year. And let's go into the logic that Serge Ibaka does really great, okay? If he does really great, what is keeping him in Orlando? What's keeping him from going to a team to contend right away? What's keeping him in Orlando and this is the scenario, if he does great in his 1 year? What's keeping him there? Money? They're about to be cap strapped. They're out here giving out money to whoever, giving out contracts to Jody Meeks, and now you're talking about putting Aaron Gordon out of position at the 3? That's not his position. He's a natural power forward. He's a new power forward. He's a guy who can run, and they ruined the entire rebuild to me. I see no future for Orlando right now. Yes, they might come in and have a stingy defense in the couple first weeks, but I think it's going to taper off by the end of the season, and they'll be sitting at like the 10 seed, 11 seed, and it's ruined, man. They ruined it all. They had a great starting 5, and it's just done now.
John, why do you disagree with what Q was saying? John, can you hear? You still there?
I think John is breaking up.
Okay.
I think everyone's got him. Hey, hold up. He just said something. You there, John?
Uh-oh. I think his mic went out.
I think the
we can always roll
got
back.
him.
roll back on the Magic, I want to talk about the Indiana Pacers. They kind of, to me, made a underrated move, signing Al Jefferson, 3 years, $30 million. The reason that I say it's underrated is basically Nate McMillan's always been a defensive coach that kind of plays slow, kind of throws it in the post. And Al Jefferson can, of course, give them some post presence. I think he's better suited off the bench personally because that way he can kind of lead that second unit. I don't like, Q, as you were saying, kind of killing the development of guys. I think if they start Al Jefferson, it hinders the development of Miles Turner, who I actually really like in that LaMarcus Aldridge type mold. What do you guys think of kind of that move for the Pacers? And we can kind of touch on Thad Young while we're at it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Pete.
Yeah.
John, we got John back. Let's.
Okay.
Should we go to
Want
John?
to roll back to the Orlando? Hey, John, talk about
If he's
Orlando
back.
real quick and why you disagree with what Q was saying.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me,
I can
right?
hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And there he go. And there goes John.
Yeah.
He hears me.
Okay.
Okay, great. I love
there,
clarification.
hey, wait, hold. There he is. There he is.
Regarding the Magic, they've been rebuilding.
We got you, John. Shoot.
Uh-oh. They cut back out on him.
To Gremlins again.
Yeah. Gremlins are getting you this week, John. Anybody want to touch on either Orlando or Indiana and kind of what they're doing?
Let me jump in on Orlando. I'm interested in what John has to say because I know he's going to come with something good. I actually agree with Q, though, because when you look at Orlando's team, and the reason I agree with him is you've just stunted one of your best future players' growth, I think, in Aaron Gordon. I agree with Q. The dude is your new age 4-man. He can handle the basketball. Sometimes he makes his threes. He's got a decent shot. It's not broke. He can handle the ball. He's kind of, I don't want to call him a poor man's Blake Griffin because
He could be a Blake in the making.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about him too.
Exactly. I think he's Griffin in him, but I think he's a better shooter though. Blake Griffin
I was going to say that. Fundamentally,
that's why I don't. Yeah, that's why. Exactly. That's why I don't understand this move. You bring in like when they brought in Ibaka, automatically we were like, well, what's that mean for Aaron Gordon? Now you bring in Bismack Biyombo. It's like, so you're going to move. Essentially, Aaron Gordon becomes an afterthought almost, unless you were going to trade Vucevic, which I saw. I don't know if it was Woj who put it in there, but maybe it's Woj is going to, said that they're going to look for a move for Vucevic if you're going to keep Aaron Gordon. But if you're going to keep Aaron Gordon and Vucevic, why Jeff Green and Bismack Biyombo? Because that only hurts Aaron Gordon. That's what I don't understand. That's something for us.
And then having Jeff Green there, basically you're hindering Hazonia, who I think is going to end up being one of the better scorers out of the draft if he develops. He's got that killer instinct when he was with Barcelona. Of course, he didn't play major minutes because overseas you don't play the minutes in the NBA. But when given a chance this past season, he actually put up some decent numbers. He's not shy. Now, they did get Jeff Green for 1 year, so it's not that bad for Hazonia, but, really, really got to look at Aaron Gordon and his stunted development. Even if you're looking at Ibaka for only a year, Aaron Gordon, this is, his third year, so, it's a pivotal year for him,
I have a question for everybody. I have a hypothetical question for everybody. We used to do these on the podcast early on, but we stopped doing them. It's called like a segment called like what if trades.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say it's the deadline, right? Who says no to this? Let me know who says no, who says yes. If you're Phil Jackson and the Knicks are terrible, and Orlando wants to win now, do you trade Carmelo Anthony for Hezonja and Aaron Gordon?
I take that in a heartbeat. If I'm the Knicks, if I'm Orlando, I don't touch that trade.
Exactly.
I agree.
John, what do you think? Since we're still touching on Orlando, if the Gremlins don't get to this time.
Yeah, you guys hear me fine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
I
Go.
guess not.
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I'm looking at you, Pete, and you're just like,
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Regarding the Magic, they haven't improved in like 5 years. It's been way too slow of a rebuilding process. Developed,
And the Gremlins got you again.
as rapidly as you would want from a number 2 pick.
I hear him.
Can you hear me?
I think I get the gist of what he's saying. I get the gist of what
Nick Vucevic, he ain't a veteran.
He's breaking it pretty good.
Am I good?
It's going in and out, John.
Yeah.
I think I get the gist of what he's saying, though. I've seen that argument, how they say, oh, the Magic have been rebuilding for too long. Well, I mean, dude, sometimes rebuilds take a long time. That's why it's called trust the process for a reason. You have to trust what you're doing. Now, I think it's disingenuous of some people to think that, oh, the rebuild's taking too long, but the rebuild was perfectly on time, in my opinion. Like, we have this thing in the NBA where everybody wants to rush to get swept by Bron. Like, it makes no sense to me. Why is everyone trying to rush to get swept by the LeBron James sweepstakes? It just happens. Every single year, he gets a new victim. And they end up getting 4-0'd in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Raptors took it to 6, but everyone knows that should have been 4. But everyone is rushing, making these lateral moves, making these mid-level signings to just get in the playoffs.
Average.
Yeah, they're trying to be average. Why are you? The whole process of Philadelphia, he could tell you as a Sixers fan, it was about trying to build a championship squad. It's still about trying to build a championship squad. The Boston Celtics are trying to build a championship squad. People like the Lakers, people like the Knicks, they're trying to be good right now so they can get their headlines on ESPN.com. That's what they're trying to do. Oh, the Lakers are back. They're in the playoffs as an 8 seed. That's not back. That's just in the mix, and that's barely in the mix because you're almost out the bottom. So Orlando was in a perfect position to build around all 5 guys that they had in, Oladipo, Alfred, Aaron, Hezonja, Tobias, and Vucevic. And now almost all those guys are gone. So now you're stuck with Elfrid Payton, who can't shoot. Now you're stuck with Fournier for another 4 years, whose development as a younger guy, like his stats have gone down. Now you're stuck with all these big men who just know how to defend, and you're renting Serge Ibaka, hoping that he's gonna stay. What's stopping Serge Ibaka from going to the Wizards next year? What's stopping him from going to Cleveland? What's stopping him from going to a title contender? There's nothing stopping him. And for them to think that Bismack is going to be the answer, and Jody Meeks is the answer,
There's
and
no
all those guys are the
marketable
answer,
star on Orlando.
there's no star. And that's why I think they should be trying to reach out to New York. They should be trying to reach out right now and say, hey, remember at the deadline, if it's not going right, we want Carmelo. Because apparently that's what they want to do, is try to be as average and get as many wins as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that basically with Orlando, they're definitely going to have some long-term decisions to make. Once that Oladipo trade happened, I think they basically decided to turn it into a different direction. But it's almost like with Frank Vogel being the coach there now, it's a defensive-minded team. So I get the Biombo signing, I get Ibaka, I get all that, but at the same time, they're not win-now guys that are going to basically take over that team and will that team to a win. Biombo can't score offensively. Ibaka had a down season, or really season and a half if you want to say. And your up-and-coming players that brought excitement to that team were Aaron Gordon, Hazonia when he got in, excitement to that team. Jeff Green is not going to carry your team at the small forward spot. Peyton is a pass-first point guard. He can't shoot outside of 15 feet. He can't even really get in the hole very well. So then that leaves Fournier, which they basically defenses can double up on, and that takes his offense away. So what do you have really coming off the bench other than injured Jody Meeks that's now recovered, but he really didn't show much last year because of that injury. You've got Hazonia in some spots you can play. And then you've got to figure it out from there as far as offensively what you're going to do, because it's not a post league anymore that you can throw the ball down to Vucevic and get buckets. So they have to look to trade him and get some assets back. They go out and sign DJ Augustine when you already had CJ Watson there. That doesn't make sense. You already have a scoring point guard. You don't need another one. So some of those moves, are a little bit questionable to me. Moving back to Indiana and the Pacers, basically their style of play is going to change because it's a defensive team as well with Nate McMillan. Paul George, of course, he's going to give it his all. Miles Turner is a good, up-and-coming player, showed some flashes last season. And now Al Jefferson in the post, he can still score. He can't defend, but he can score. They just lost Jan Mahimi today, to the Washington Wizards, so they'll need a defensive presence inside. Rumors are that Monte Ellis could be on his way out, along with Rodney Stuckey. Right now with Jeff Teague in that backcourt, that's a small backcourt with Monte Ellis and Jeff Teague. What do you guys think of the Pacers' chances, next season? If they don't make any more big splash moves, which it doesn't seem like they're going to make any pivotal moves so far.
I think the Pacers are going to be okay. Contender, probably not. But maybe 4 or 5 seed in the East with as they're presently constructed.
Mm-hmm.
You got, my guess is Jefferson's your 5, Miles Turner's going to be your 4, and so if they can move Monte, I think that's the big thing. You got to move Monte on this team. The big question mark will be Jeff Teague. We saw what Jeff Teague did a couple years ago when he was an All-Star in Atlanta. They won 60 games. And my question is that the Jeff Teague we're going to get, or was that just a random thing? Was it just a great year for him, or is what we saw this year and previous years, is that what we're going to get from Jeff Teague? But I do think they have to get rid of Monte Ellis because we know he's not going to pass the basketball. He plays no defense. I mean, he may be up there with James Harden defensively, which is kind of sad.
Indictment.
But
he's not that bad.
I'm sorry. I don't. Byron knows James Harden is that bad defensive. He's that bad defensive.
The thing is, Matt, James Harden has to try to play defense for it to be called defense.
That's the problem,
Not
yeah.
play defense.
And that's the thing I'm saying.
Try.
I think I'm gonna go. I think Brandon agrees with me because Brandon is an all defensive guy. He knows James Harden is capable of being a good defensive player.
Yes, but
he just doesn't give. He gives no effort.
Trying are two different things.
Exactly. And that's the same thing. Exactly.
Hey, Matt.
He literally gets on defense, and it looks like he's thinking, man, I can't wait till I get the ball again. I'm going to dribble, and then I'm going to dribble, and then when I get done dribbling, I'm going to shoot it. Man, I love shooting.
If I miss and I get a rebound, I'm going to dribble some more. Hey, Matt, I'm capable of being a brain surgeon, but I just don't want to do it.
Hey, Brandon, I gotta ask you, man. Monte Ellis, What about Monte and his defense?
Hey man, Monte is not a fantastic defender, but I mean you put him up there with Harden, man. If I was Monte, I'd be a little sad right now.
Yeah, sorry, Monty, if you're watching this podcast. Nothing personal, dude. You get buckets, but you're not a top
Monte can hoop.
He can score.
Monte,
but
let me say
score with bundles.
Yeah, Monte Ellis can. I think everybody on this panel will agree. Monte Ellis can hoop. He can get.
I think everybody on this panel
not a
will agree
scrub
that
offensively. He can hoop.
he's not the brightest crayon in the box. This fool said, "I'm better than Dwayne Wade. All he has on me is the wings." What else is there?
Well, the thing about Monte Ellis is Monte is like a player from 2001 into 2016. He's a guy who he needs the ball. He comes from that ISO class of AI.
Yes.
He comes from that Team Mac class of I need the ball.
Yes.
The whole team is me.
Yes.
He's a descendant of the N1 mixtape era.
Yeah, he is exactly that. And I think to touch on Indiana, I think we all have to keep in mind and just be very clear right now that we don't realize it, but they are slowly pushing Paul George to make his free agent decision very easily in 2018, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very easy because these second-round outs, these first-round outs are going to weigh on him, and he's going to be like, man, who's good right now, man? Who's going to give me this cash? And that's what it's going to come down to because, first off, fam, if you want to sign Al Jefferson but you don't want to trade for Jahlil Okafor, something is wrong. I don't understand. I don't understand. Apparently, Jahlil Okafor has no value in the NBA. Apparently, he's a top 3 pick that means nothing in the NBA now. But you want to sign Al Jefferson to be your backup or your starting big. That makes no sense to me. And I just think this whole proposition of Monte for Rudy Gay, that's like trading Beavis for Butthead. That's not going to do nothing.
Basically, it's another ball.
That's not going to do nothing, bro.
Rockefeller.
And the thing about it, though, is if they trade for Rudy Gay, that pushes Paul George to the 2. So,
but you saw the thing was in the preseason last year, Larry Bird said he wanted Paul George to play the 4, which is odd. So yeah, I agree with you. They're making his decision easy.
Right. Let's see. So we got Washington Wizards.
If I'm wrong, really quick.
Yeah.
Is Paul George from Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Not to make Matt super excited, but just imagine this.
No, I think
2 years from now, Lakers are a little bit better than they are, or a lot better than they are now. He could go home. Just a thought. Just putting that out there, man.
No. You know why he won't go there? Because they're going to have Brandon Ingram. I think Brandon Ingram, I don't know if he's going to be a superstar top 10 player. I do believe, and Q and Pete are going to like this, I do believe Ben Simmons is going to be a stud. I said it, a couple of weeks ago on our podcast. Ben Simmons is going to be the man. Yeah, Ben Simmons is going to be the man.
He's what I call
Ingram.
Ben Simmons is the anti-Iverson for Philly. That's what he is. He's the anti-Allen Iverson.
I hope. He just needs to embrace the city.
I think he's a game changer. I think Simmons is one of those potential franchise-changing players that comes in and it's like 2 or 3 years from now, they're like, my God, how did we get this guy? We are the luckiest people on earth, How did we get this guy on our team?
I don't think it's 2 or 3 years. I think it's this year.
He's gonna come out. He's gonna come out. When they drafted him, I said it's like Allen Iverson all over again as far as excitement. But I think he's gonna restore the feeling that city had when they had like a Dr. J, a Doug Collins, Moses.
Barkley.
Re-excite the fan base, and it's like, hey, we've got a team, and this is our clear leader. This is our superstar. I think he's going to play right away. He's going to ball right away. I think he averages 20 this year.
All he has to do is all you got to do is embrace the city, man. All you got to do is have that Philly mentality. Is we never quit, we never give up,
Yes.
we always gonna ride, and we will ride for you regardless. AI, he might have shot 45 times a game, but we saw that he wanted to make it every single time. It wasn't about him trying to get a contract; it was about him trying to win the game. So we saw him. He was like, we riding behind AI. And the problem, just to revert this real quick, I'm gonna make a quick prediction real quick. Paul George is gonna go to the Clippers in 2018 because the Clippers, he's from California. The Clippers will have enough cap to afford him, and they'll most likely be moving Blake if they don't make the playoffs this year, which I don't think is gonna happen. But they had enough to just get KD by himself, and they would have had to strip the whole roster. That was because their cap was strapped. Next year and the year after, they're probably going to save. And then they will cash in with a big four on Paul George. And that's going to be scary because Chris Paul will most likely take a pay cut because he's going to be about 33 years old, 34.
Absolutely. Hey, Q, question. All this talk of Kevin Durant going to the Clippers. And I've talked about this many times on here. They say, well, we got to get rid of one of the big three. And I know some people say Redick, but J.J. Redick kind of makes that team work with the way he spreads the floor. And I know Durant can shoot. But if you're the Clippers, do you get rid of Blake Griffin to bring in Kevin Durant? I think you do. As crazy as it sounds.
First and foremost, I'm flipping Blake Griffin to Miami to bring up enough cap for a signing trade. And then you have enough room. So I think that can work.
Okay.
And plus, I think Blake he's the anti-Ben Simmons. He can do everything Ben does, but his mentality is so different from Ben. Ben is, who am I going to pass to first? Blake's is, let me go ahead and dribble this clock down. He is James Harden in a power forward's body. He literally is. So he's like, all right, I'm going to whoopty-whoop behind the back and everything. I'm going to try and post up, even though I ain't got no post moves. And then he dribbles out the clock. It's bad, but I think with KD, DeAndre as your rim protector, and CP, who can just feed you, that's contention for a championship.
Yeah. I think you've got to, because you saw a couple, not this year, but last year when they played the Spurs. It went 7. Clippers did win. But you saw when the Clippers could have beat them in like 5 games. But when a game got on the, I'm going to go behind my back out of bounds. I'll make plays. And that's crap.
Yeah.
Why is he trying to, come on now, man?
Yeah, and another team.
His decision-making in the club.
He's not clutch, and he's not going to be. And that's why I think teams like Boston and Miami will have their pick of him if the season does not go the way it does, because somebody's got to go. You saw how CP balled out without Blake Griffin. He had more options to pass to, he had more people to pass to, and he balled out without Blake. So I think what we're going to see is very quickly the cards will show themselves. And if they cannot put something together that looks more substantive than the last years that they've been together, then I think somebody's definitely going to be traded at the deadline. I think Blake is perfect. And I'm calling up the Magic. I want Gordon, I want Hazoni, I want Fournier. And that's what I want for Blake Griffin easily. But that right there can restart your rebuild. That right there you can develop young players. And that's something for the future. So I think watch that move for Orlando, watch that move for Boston, watch that move for Miami. Or just a sidebar, a team that played themselves out of the KD contention, because I think KD is going to end up signing a one-year deal with OKC, is Portland. Portland committed way too much money to Evan Turner. As a Sixers fan, I think he's a complete product of Brad Stevens. He's a complete product of him being one of the best coaches in the NBA. And I think they will find out very quickly that they will have to pay CJ. They will have to pay, I think there's like 2 more guys who played really good for them last year in the playoffs. And KD on Portland, y'all might think that the Splash Bros and Oakland are nice, but if KD went to Portland next year, shooters.
And the thing about it is with Portland, I like that Alan Crabb. They could have signed him to a deal that I would take him over Evan Turner, and I'd take Mo Harkless over Evan Turner. Harkless gives you athleticism and defense. Crabb gives you shooting. I want the Sixers to go after Alan Crabb myself, but that's just me personally. I mean, just as a shooter, somebody that Ben Simmons could kick it out to, and he can defend a little bit as well. But with Portland, they've got so many guys: Miles Leonard, Chris Kaman, Brian Roberts. They're all going to have to be renounced in order to bring Evan Turner on. And Evan Turner can't defend. He's above average as far as getting to the rim, but he's not, consistent. And then basically all he can do is pass and have some ball handling. He's not a lights-out scorer, so what does he do for that team as a starting small forward? You're basically kind of bringing the ball up and you let Dame and McCollum let it fly? Because that's about the only option I could see. Then you got to move Aminu to power forward, which makes it undersized. So there's got to be some more deals coming somewhere. But I just don't think you pay Evan Turner to be, that much money to be a bench, a bench player. Basically, you're sixth man, so to speak. I mean, that's a lot of money.
He's getting $18 million a year. I mean, like back to what I was saying about J.J. Redick and the basic economics argument. If you don't understand it, that's fine. Everybody knows I'm a big J.J. fan. But damn, man, it's not the money people are complaining. It's the guys who are getting this money.
Exactly.
Evan Turner, that's like saying back in the day, well, we're going to give Judd, well, fuck it, I'm going to say it. We're going to give Judd Bushler $10 million a year. Come on now. Like Judd Bushler? I hate to say it, Mike, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Hey, funny story, though. Judd was making almost as much as Scottie Pippen in that last year. So let's not joke about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, though, that's like, come on, man. Let's not give these guys these astronomical contracts.
But did you see? This is just
That's crazy,
beginning, guys. Have you seen what next summer's cap is going to be?
113 million.
Yeah, 113. Another 20 million is going up. So you think this summer was crazy?
Yes. Hey.
We haven't seen anything yet.
Hey,
like
Brandon.
KD re-signing for 1 year is brilliant. LeBron re-signing for 1 year is brilliant because next summer they're going to make even more money than people are making right now. LeBron's going to get a $200 million contract if he wants it. If he wants it.
They got 153. Yeah. LeBron and KD both.
Yeah. If they want it. If they want it.
I want to hear you guys' thoughts on a guy that's lost a lot of money this offseason, OJ Mayo.
Woo!
Banned from the league for 2 years for violating the substance abuse, basically drug abuse NBA policy. He had a run-in with some marijuana back when he came into the league. And he didn't play very well like himself last season. You can pretty much argue the season before either. He came in as basically the next LeBron James, and it's a big fall from grace. What do you guys think about him?
Man, hey, there's no way he got banned from the NBA essentially for just marijuana. It had to be some crazy PED, cocaine, heroin. You don't get, and it's not. He didn't get suspended. He got kicked out of the league.
Banned, yeah.
He has to reapply. He has to apply for reinstation in 2 years. That means he may not get back in the league. How do you fall? This guy, like Brandon knows, because Brandon, you were around the same class as him.
Yeah.
Maybe the same year, actually. I think was it? Brandon. I think Brandon was the year after.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, but you got
I gotta interject just
player
a quick
in that class.
I gotta interject a quick thought, man. How do you get banned from the league this summer with free agency? Like, bro, I'm thinking to myself, how can I get back in the gym? How can I work on my defense in a jumper to get like a 10-day contract or get like, on the practice squad or like a ball boy? They're throwing money away. You seen Wolf of Wall Street when Leo DiCaprio is on the yacht throwing fun coupons at the feds? That's literally what NBA teams are doing right now. So I wish I could send DJ Khaled over to OJ Mayo's house and just say, congratulations, you played yourself. You had a great opportunity to get a nice contract this season, and what did you do? You did drugs, and now you're not even in the league. You're not even going to be in 2K17 next year. You blew it.
Wow.
Oh, man, yes. I totally agree. Absolutely.
It's kind of like the guy you work with, and you're like, dude, all you got to do is show up and you get a raise. But you couldn't even do that.
Yeah. No, you had to do drugs.
Yes.
Hey, Q.
Yo.
Thing, right? What do you think of OJ Mayo, man?
First off, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, word. I immediately went to my closet and I got out this old magazine. I forget the name now, but it had OJ Mayo on it, and it said the next LeBron. I promise you. I said that.
Yeah. Was it Dime Magazine or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Dime. It was Dime Magazine.
Oh yeah.
The next LeBron. Man, players, man, it just happens.
They didn't say the next LeBron James. They didn't specify which LeBron.
Yeah, the next LeBron Jenkins. I don't know what's going on, bro. It's terrible. Like, it's, man, once you get on that narcotic, man, it's crazy. I don't know if he was on a pipe or something, but God bless him. Like, I don't know. It's pretty bad.
It brings me back to
like crystal meth or something.
Basically, I mean, it's
And
not.
he's been on that Method Man album.
It's not a fair comparison, but basically, Chris Anderson, basically had some substance abuse, something like that.
Birdman.
He got kicked out of the league, of course, came back, and came back twice as strong.
Well,
so I'm hoping that OJ Mayo can do the same.
Well, they just tell you that. What they don't tell you is that Chris Anderson was being investigated for child porn. That's really why he got kicked out. And then on the way into his house, they found some bags of meth, and they just said, "All right, this is gonna be the real reason why."
Well, he got framed though, because the girl, they found out that girl had set him up, did something to where
the charges were dropped and he was exonerated.
But that's crazy though to have all that happen.
Where did she get child porn from? Anyway, it's just like OJ Mayo. It's sad.
I gotta interject on that. That's a very vicious way to set somebody up.
Yeah.
It's like whatever happened to good old fashioned slashing tires and you know what I mean?
But then girls get creative now. So
no, the thing is the fact that she knew where to go, the fact that she knew how much she could get. That's the thing that got me looking at her sideways. She who does that? Who breaks up with their John and is just like, man, I'm about to put some child porn on him.
Or you are so Philly. That boy's gone. And you know what the sad part was? He probably had it was probably pictures of her own kids. She was like, "Come on, boy, let's that." And she just,
Hey man, people do crazy stuff out here in this world for that paper.
Hey, that's like that. Remember that broad that was with not Dirk's wife now, but that girl he was basically engaged to, and she had basically was stealing all his money and everything, and doing little side deals and stuff like that. And that's crazy. Like what kills me is all these stars, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, and trust all these I'm just gonna say groupies. Basically, you hit it and then you say, all right, here's a little money. Leave your stuff out here and there, and you wonder why your money's gone. It's like you got to know who's in your circle.
The problem is that these dudes be getting caught up with these IG joints, and they be just straight on these joints. I'm sorry, I'm getting real South right now. They're basically interacting with these hood rats and female thoughts out here, and they end up taking them to the club just because you get a joint at Club Live or 40/40 and you take her home and you smash. That don't mean that she's gonna be your wife. That doesn't mean that she's a respectable female to bring around your children and stuff. And you saw what happened to Derek Fisher, man. Derek Fisher thought he had the game sold up. Nah, fam. It's not sweet out here.
Hey, can I say something? You know who I see out here in LA? When I was living in Woodland Hills, I would see Doug Christie out, like him and his son shopping at like Whole Foods, like all the time. And I got to thinking, I'm like, man, they need a wife like Doug Christie's wife.
Man, you got him on lock though.
That's what they need.
She cracked that whip though.
When was the last time you heard of Doug Christie?
She'll beat the hell out of him, and he ain't gonna be conscious after he does it. So he ain't that dumb. She can outmatch him.
But you know what?
She weigh about 190. She probably.
Every guy in the NBA player needs like an attractive like Rasputia from Norbit to keep them.
Oh man.
But like for real, like the real.
Obscure Eddie Murphy reference.
Like for real though, like the real hero in all of this is Lou Williams. Bro got 2 Johns on his arm at the same time. They know of each other.
Yeah.
They sleep in the same bed.
Yep.
They do the ooh-wop together, and now it's like they all good. So perhaps we all need to start campaigning for 2 girls at one time. Maybe that's the key to these NBA players getting what they need.
Bro, I'm all for polygamy, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
We either need to, like, seriously, dog, with all the other stuff that's going on in society with equal rights, dog, why can't I have like 6 wives, man? I mean,
Hey, for the record, I'm married, so I know my wife is going to check this out at some point. So, my wife,
Hey, Pete, you're
just
good.
want to throw that out there.
Just go ahead and plead the fifth, Pete. You don't know anything that's going on in this. But that's a really big factor in all this.
I need to stop joking like that, though.
But a lot of these guys really get caught up in stuff like that because that's more money than the average person will ever see in a lifetime.
Right.
Like, you would feel like you could do anything. Like, and you probably would do anything. You would probably do something like go out, buy a jet ski and an IHOP franchise in the same day just because you could. And a lot of these guys, they get caught up with these women. They get caught up in situations where it's like, dude, you need to be in an environment, in a culture, in a city where not only they prepare you for the basketball, but they prepare you on and off the court. Have some veterans in that locker room to like, hey, man, don't go over there. Or you see that girl over there? Nah, man, she gonna mess with you. Don't mess with her.
Let me ask a question real quick. And you don't have to name names, or Brandon, I'm coming to you. You don't have to name any names, no teams, no nothing. But you played in the D League. Is it similar in the D League that broads are just coming out of nowhere, or is that basically just an NBA thing?
No, that's a basketball thing, period, man. Honestly, it's worse as you go overseas. Like when I was in Mexico and Germany, and I wasn't necessarily involved in any of this stuff. I'm just saying I could tell you guys some stories, obviously not on camera.
Oh, yeah. When we get off the air, I want to hear some of those stories.
Hey, let me say this. Brandon, by the way, guys,
the thing is...
real talk, real quick. Hey, Brandon, before you go on, let me say, everybody, Brandon is a good dude. He's not down with that whole groupie thing. I'm not saying it because that's my boy.
No name. I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus.
It's the truth.
Like that. Just wanted to ask a simple question. And
well, let me say this, Pete, because, Matt, myself, we've been around like NBA players. We've been in the gym with them when we were much younger than what we are now, and we have friends like again, no names, that their brother played for the Rockets, and Mike and I were in show. Mike and I were in show business. Calm down. Mike and I were in show business for
Brandon probably knows what we're talking about.
on the scene, like in front and behind the scenes, we've had a hand in show business in some sort of way. And there's a friend of mine, his brother played for the Rockets, and he took me to the side, and he was like, look, I see all the noise you and your friends are making. And he was like, his exact words verbatim, like, do not trust these hoes. Like, he told me straight up. He was like, if you want to know, like, what really goes on in the NBA, what really goes on, he was like, dude, he's like, find you a nice girl that is like, that doesn't like the limelight, that's real humble. He says she doesn't have to be, Miss America, who's attractive enough for you. He was like, because the things I've seen, and another friend of mine who was like, he was affiliated with the Phoenix Suns back in the day. He lived with the member of the Phoenix Suns, and he was telling me about all the stuff that was going on. He said, and one of them said, Master P told them, when my brother first got drafted, Master P came to our house. He sat us down. He said, listen, do not fall for these women just because they're celebrities. He said, because they're like regular women. They fall for the same lies, the same BS. And he said, more than likely, all of y'all are sleeping with the same women. I mean, even like the celebrity, like the famous stars, like the big names, I won't say on camera, like the stuff he was talking about them like they were your average thought. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. Like her, bro? Like, I done dreamt about her like 3 nights this week. You got to be kidding me.
And then to take it a step further, to backdoor it, it's not even just the groupies. It's the male groupies and the family members and the wannabe business partners. Like, we know Byron and I, and actually Matt knows him as well, a former Houston Rocket. He had several business ventures with his family, which failed, and the property went into auction. The contents of the businesses went into auction. In fact, he defaulted on a storage facility that one of my friends, he does he goes to storage lots and buys auctions, and they sold off $100,000 of this man's jewelry. Not to mention, they had leather this, they had Louis this, Gucci that, sneakers, all sorts of stuff. Matter of fact, my friend got the Mork and Mindy dunks from that auction for a steal, but that's another story. So it's like, a lot of these guys need to be educated on the game.
But the thing is, bro, is like, just like for real quick, the problem is, and this is semi-serious, but it's also the truth, is a lot of these men, a lot of these boys, when they're 18, think about this. Imagine if you were 18, and a lot of athletes in the NBA, we all know, are black. And a lot of black athletes come from impoverished areas. As a matter of fact, over 53% of college athletes who are black on full scholarships come from lower economic standings. That's just a quick little factoid. So imagine you coming from the slums, right? And you got a coach telling you, yo, I can take you all the way. And he does. And now you starting to get everything you want. So Lamar Odom, OJ Mayo, all these different dudes, they have repressed issues that aren't even being brought up into the daylight because they're being blinded by the success. They come from areas where they see people smoking crack or getting shot or doing this and that, and they carry this into the league. And in Lamar Odom's case and OJ's case, apparently, they have repressed issues that they did not deal with. So when they got into the limelight, like, bro, the saying is, money don't change you. Money just amplifies who you are. And Lamar Odom, when he got that money, he literally just did what he knew how to do, and that was get high to suppress his pain. And OJ Mayo, same thing.
Yep.
It's sad, man. Imagine you getting every girl that you want just because. First of all, I'm 6'7", so I walk down the street in an Eagles jersey, girls think I'm playing for the damn offensive line, and I'd be like, shit, it's like this.
7? What's up with this? You got beat. God owes me like 4 inches, 4.5 inches. If I was 6'7", y'all be talking about me. Y'all be like, damn. Y'all be like, damn. They gave Byron $8 million to to play for the Charlotte Hornets? Michael Jordan is tripping.
Hell yeah!
But like that's what I mean though, is like you got these girls who willing to do anything, and you got these dudes who have all these issues and that they haven't even do. You would realize you don't even realize how many dudes in the NBA got mom issues. It's not even funny. How many dudes in the NBA got daddy issues? Oh my God, bro. The psychology of an NBA player is crazy. It's just sad, man.
And on a side note, that's why, and this is not an opportunity to like big him up, but I gotta say this: it's like people criticize LeBron so much, and they haven't looked about it. The boy was raised in the projects. He got a crazy behind mama, and he's never been in trouble. Now you put Lamar Odom in there. This how that story will go. He played basketball at juvenile camp. He got out. This story would just be completely different because not everybody is resilient enough to come from the bottom and be successful and handle it. And I have this.
You're a product of your environment too. If you got the right people around you,
exactly.
That's gonna help you.
Check this out. Check this out. Matt,
the women are coming from there too. You got to think about that.
Matt can speak to this though. Sometimes it don't matter who you got around you. Some things that happen. I'm gonna say one name, Benji Wilson.
Oh yeah.
He had everything around him. He had a good support system. He was in the ghetto. And what happened one day? Tragedy happened.
Wrong guy.
Tragedy happens. You don't realize. See, here's the thing. People get on LeBron. Oh, he had the decision. Oh, he left. He's this and that. The one thing that you cannot say about LeBron James, he ain't got a whole bunch of thought mamas running around. He ain't got a whole bunch of scandals. He ain't got a whole bunch of, club and bar fights going on like Vince Young did. He is the epitome of what an athlete should conduct himself like off the field, off the court. Anyway,
absolutely.
And people don't ever give him that credit. Dwight Howard got like 8 baby mamas. You got Lance Stevenson pushing his girlfriend down steps and stuff. It's bad out here, man.
Don't get on LeBron. Don't get on Ray Rice now.
Man, don't even let me start on that.
Hey Byron, Mike, Brandon, y'all know when I played in the ABA, my coach was Orlando Woolridge. Everybody knows who Orlando Woolridge is.
Yeah, we know the Orlando story.
Yeah, man. Hey, unfortunately, he passed away in 2012. Rest in peace, Orlando Woolridge. Very good man. I will cut for that man all day long. He gave me an opportunity. I love that man.
You got to explain it in cut for me. They don't understand that, Matt. When you say I cut for that man, they're not used to it.
When I say I cut for that man, that's my dude, man. I defend him all day long. Orlando Woolridge was a good man. Brandon Provost knows what I'm talking about when I say cut.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
Like
he had a lot of respect for you, man, and he really looked out for you.
Well, no, not that. Yeah, he did. But I'm not even getting to that. But like when he got into the NBA, he played for the Lakers, and he was with the Pistons for a while. But he told us a lot of things. But one thing that always struck me was a lot of people think it was just the drugs, the reason why he kind of went downhill. Not completely true. This man paid like he had. I mean, Q, you may know. You've heard of Ronaldo Woolridge, played at Tennessee.
Yeah.
A few years ago. That was his son. That was one of his kids. He paid for all. Like he didn't need to pay for Ronaldo because he got a scholarship, but he paid for all his kids, his family. He paid for everything. This was the nicest man. And people look at him like, oh man, he was just into cocaine, this and that. Man, when he was my coach, this dude, he had been sober for a long ass time. I will say that right now. This dude was not, he wasn't on all that crazy shit. He was just a really nice guy. He had a big heart. He took care of his entire family. And I think some of these professional athletes get the worst rap. Yes, they go for the women and all that. That's fine. But these guys get a really bad rap. And
I agree.
Nobody's going to talk about Orlando Woolridge paying for all his kids to go through college, not the ones who were privileged to be good basketball players. Nobody's going to talk about that, and that's a shame. You know,
You know
he
what,
took
man?
care of his family. All that money went to the family.
I gotta agree with you and Q because it's like, and I'm glad that we're on this topic because we, the show is so multifaceted, and Pete, I gotta commend you for like even bringing us here because you know, there's people that we judge, and we kind of hold these celebrities to unrealistic standards, But like, there was one player who I looked at him and I misjudged him for a number of years, and that one is Matt Barnes, and I'm like, this guy is such an idiot. But then I saw I was up like super early one morning, and I'm big into documentaries, and I was like, Matt Barnes documentary, let's check it out. And the things that this man has gone through, it's like there's no reason why he acts the way he acts. But I believe that like a lot of these players, they're not only like they're I've had a chance. I won't go into detail, but I've mentored some kids since I've been living in LA, and a lot of them come from gang neighborhoods. And I think one of the biggest things with these kids that that I see is that there are a lot of things that they experience early on that are very traumatic, and they have not had the opportunity to talk about these things. They need counseling, and sadly, a lot of times in these minority communities, these are services that we don't really take advantage of, and we don't use because there's a stigma that comes along with that. So I'm watching this documentary on Matt Barnes, how his dad was a big time like dope dealer in LA. He moves them up to Northern California. Now, mind you, he's biracial. Now he's in an area where minority people aren't well received, and he's being bullied for that and called racial epithets, for something that is beyond his control, and how he got in trouble because he was defending his sister. And these things, they stick with you for a long time. And at first I thought, oh, he's a real impulsive guy. Like he just, he thinks like this, and he just, if something happens, he just snaps. And it's like, no, that's not that he's impulsive. He's reverting back to what he knows. When something happens, he reverts back to what he saw growing up, to that environment of his early days living in South Central Los Angeles. So I think that it's very, very vital that, like me, growing up with Rashard Lewis, but not really growing up with him, going to high school with him, I should say, and seeing the support system he had around him. Like he had a good mother who provided a very stable upbringing for him. He had a big brother who we kind of knew, like we perceived him as a bully, but really he helped to keep Rashard in line.
Oh man, hey, that was a big dude too.
And then we had Mr. Howell, who came up with Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, and blew out his knee back in the time where if you had an ACL injury that ended you. He trained Matt. Matt, he happened to be Matt's. He was Matt's dad's best friend. He trained Matt.
I think just to shout out Mr. He was the all-time, before recently, he was the all-time assist leader at Kent State.
Right, and our neighborhood,
drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And in our neighborhood, he was the guy that knew talent, and he took all the prospects, including my younger brother. Like whenever he saw talent, he stepped in, he cultivated that, and he had his foot on Rashard Lewis's neck. He stayed on him because you got to remember when I was there, ESPN was coming out to our school. It was like, it was just pandemonium, just like Rashard Lewis mania. Like, and that was around the time that movie He Got Game came out, and it was like,
oh shit,
he might as well have been. Yeah, I'm old. He might as well have.
Shuttlesworth.
Yeah, he might as well have been.
Hey Q, we're all older than you, bro.
Yeah. He might as well have.
Hey, me and Byron both went to school with Rashard, man. This is all true.
Yeah, he might as well have been Jesus Shuttlesworth because simultaneously he's going through that movie comes out and he was living that life And I remember because he used to talk to this girl.
Well, Byron, he was the number one player. He was the number one player in the country at that time.
And this is the kid I just see every day. And I saw people gravitate towards him and try to cling to him because the year before he became his junior year, which was my freshman year, before he was the top player in the nation, I saw his friends and I saw people around him, but there was another basketball player there where everybody was on his job because he was actually better than Rashard. Rashard went to ABCD camp. He killed it in the summer camps. He became the top-rated player in the nation. And I see all these people that I'd never seen with Rashard before constantly around him. But the community to collect, we came together, not we, but they came together. And Houston is like a big city, but it's still kind of like a small-time country vibe. Yeah. And they saw to it that he was a success. I knew his teachers. We had the same teachers. At the time my sister taught at that school. They came together and saw to it that he made it. And I never understood until I graduated college that saying, that African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And Rashard Lewis is where he is right now because the community came together. And they're like, you ain't hanging out here. You ain't doing this. You're not doing that. Here's what you're going to do because you are going to make it.
Byron.
Yes.
Hey, Byron, tell them because our junior year, when there was the lockout that year, Rashard's rookie year, the first part of '98, that was our junior year. Let them know because I'm sitting on the bench, of course, the whole time. But let them know guys like Nick Van Exel, Master P, Clyde Drexler, all these dudes were coming to our games. And this is after Rashard left.
When Rashard Lewis, big. I was a freshman and I was a sophomore. He was a senior. That year, Penny Hardaway was injured. That was when he had that knee injury. Penny Hardaway was coming up to the school. He'd come there a number of times to watch Rashard Lewis play. Nick Van Exel was coming up to our school. Master P was coming to watch. This was when Master P was like, make him say, this was when P was like, what Kanye is now.
That's right.
Yeah, they were coming to our school to watch this guy play. It was like when you went and I went to all the games because my sister was over the cheerleaders at the time, so I would go with her to all of the games, and it was just nuts. And I wish that a player as gifted as Allen Iverson, I wish the community would have corralled around him and and put that hedge of protection around him. He'd be winning rings. I wish that. Go ahead.
I was saying I could speak to that because, I got dual citizenship in PA and VA. I spend time in both states all the time. And I'm actually currently in VA right now, which is funny. But the thing about AI and players like AI is that AI is I think he's from Tidewater, Virginia. He's from Hamptons, Norfolk area. And that's where all the military bases are at. Yeah. But people don't realize that AI's town at the time was one of the most segregated cities on, the face of the earth. It was nothing but black folks in that town. And the thing is about AI, the reason why he got into that fight to begin with is because, and if you all want to know the long reason, there's a documentary. It's called, I think it's Iverson, or I think it's the No Crossover one from 30 for 30. And it details how he got sent to jail, why he got sent to jail. And that's because there was basically long story, too short version is there was a judge whose AI was dating his daughter. And it was an interracial relationship. He was messing around with his daughter from this other school. AI went to Bethel, and I think his daughter went to the same school, or he went to another school. And basically, they were a thing, they had a little, fun here and there. And the judge got pissed off. And the moment that he saw AI, in that fight, he threw the book at him. And there were times where people were trying to help AI. There was a coach down there I think he's one of the best AAU coaches in the world. I can't even think of his name. I'm forgetting. But he put his arm around AI. He said, all right, man, we're not going to let you, throw your whole life away. And if you look up how many professional athletes come from different states, that one spot in Virginia, Norfolk, it has breeded so many people like Moses Malone, Michael Vick, Allen Iverson, Heath Miller, Percy Harvin. I can go on for days and days and days because they call it the 757 because it's a pressure cooker. And all the heat rises to the top. So if you're good, then you're going to make it because all the heat rises to the top. And I think it's just so important to discuss these things because when you see these players getting these contracts, I'm not ever going to say that these guys don't deserve it because we're not there when they're in the gym at 3 a.m. We're not there when they're, sacrificing time with their families to go play a sport for our entertainment.
Yes.
I'm not going to go say that they don't deserve it when they've sacrificed years of their youth just to put food on their families' tables. And, dude, just a quick stat. I'm gonna let y'all go on to whatever if it's the next topic or someone speaks. There was a poll that was done in Chicago. Think about how many great athletes come out of Chicago, and think about how many haven't. I think this study was done in 2013. And this ties into what he said. There's a study done that shows that in the south side of Chicago, they pulled about, I think it was 3,000 kids. Out of those 3,000 kids, I think about 2,300 of those children from ages 9 to 17, they tested higher on a PTSD scale than people coming back from Iraq.
Wow.
And that's a problem because
I'm sure the numbers would be the same from these kids in South Central.
Bruh, it'd be the same for Philly. It'd be the same for a lot of these communities of color or poor communities that have gun violence problems. And think about how many athletes rise out of this. So I'm not ever gonna say that, oh, you don't deserve that $100 million. No, fam. I know dudes who watched their family members die in front of them, but they couldn't go to the funeral because they had an AAU game. I know dudes who got shot after graduating who were going to get full scholarships to good schools. So the ones that make it, I salute them. I respect their grind. And I'm not going to tell you what you do and don't deserve. I just hope that you use your influence and your money right. And that's why I think people like Mike Conley deserve that cash because we don't know what he done. You know what I'm saying? And it's very important that we keep that in perspective when talking about contracts,
Absolutely.
Well, with Mike Conley, I think my point was, I just think that that's where it's a reflection of the time. And my thing is just like, okay, yeah, he was never an all-star, but it's kind of like, wow, Michael Jordan was underpaid for the majority of his career, and now a guy like Mike Conley, he's vital to his team. I give him that, but it's still like, wow. And he was the one that was the first, who got the first,
So
he was the highest paid in history. And what I can say is this too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like we see, like you're talking about Mike Conley. What does Kevin Durant get then? And I don't think anybody's gonna argue Kevin Durant's contract. Like if Mike Conley, like what's the max Kevin Durant can get? Can he get 5 years, 53 million?
And he deserves that for just 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, he's one of the top 3 players in the league.
I mean, basically, if he signs the 1-year contract, he can earn about $100 million more by waiting, delaying that, doing the 1-1.
If he waits and he opts out after next year, what is he looking at? Like next summer, is he looking at a 5-year, $200 million contract?
He might be looking at like 185, 190.
Damn.
It's just right here. It says,
and he's worth every penny of it.
5-year contract would end up being $153 million over 5 years as of the cap right now. That's not accounting for the cap going up. Now, if it rises to where they're saying it could be he could earn up to $244 million over 6 years.
Oh God, yes.
So.
Hey, Pete, real quick. Hey, let me jump in here. I'm gonna go to Brandon here because Brandon can speak on this. I know, Brandon. I'm sorry. I know you're not gonna get the $200 million. I apologize.
I'm not gonna get to.
How do you feel about this? Do you like it? I actually think, hey, get all the money you can get, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I like it. I don't necessarily think it's. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but maybe it's because I don't live that kind of lifestyle. It doesn't matter how much money I have. I'm not gonna live that kind of lifestyle. I don't know. What are you gonna do with $250 million that you earn in 6 years? Like, what do you? I just want to know what you need that for. I mean, that's all I'm saying. But I mean, it's, I mean, if it's available, why not go get it?
I just think it's good for the players, man. These players right now, I'm talking about this cap right now, they're making about 5% of what their GM and owners make.
I was just about to say that. Imagine what, the Sixers, Josh Harris, what he's bringing home.
Yeah.
Man.
Like Steve Ballmer is, I think he's an owner of Windows. Like, dude is bringing in billions every single year.
Yeah.
So, him crying, he does need to cry. He needs to cry for KD to come to his team because you making all that money, dude. Like, you don't deserve, like, bruh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I was an athlete and I was making this much money, the only thing that I would know how to do with this is reinvest this and help people who need it and just save for myself. Like, save something for myself. And the things that I know I will not be able to spend in my lifetime, I'm either going to reinvest it or help people with things who actually need it. Because there are a lot of communities and a lot of ballers, who don't get that shot, who need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go out and buy a U team, fund the team that's, in poverty, fund kids who need it. Go buy books for schools that don't have books. You know what I'm saying? I'll do that stuff. But I think these players are going to be smarter with their cash. But I think it's just good to see that they're finally getting what they deserve. And I think the argument that, Jordan never got paid, well, Jordan got kids killing each other for his shoes while he makes billions, so he'll be all right. He's making about 7 times more than what he made in the league just off of his name brand shoes. And, it takes 3 cents to make him it takes 3 cents to make him in China. They price him for $275.
But you know what? That's exactly what I think J.J. Redick was getting to when he made his tweet the other day. Like, when comparing to like the mid '90s to now, everything is different because you have to adjust for inflation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So $150 million contract now is not isn't exactly as high as it looked compared to 10, 15 years ago.
It's not.
Yeah.
I think that's what J.J. Redick was getting to.
Well, what just piggybacking on what Q said, as far as what they do with the money and what Brandon said about, investing in and the whole nine. Again, that's why when you see a player like, and y'all can call me a stan all you want, but when you see a player like LeBron who has put all those kids through college, that's why I was really pushing for him to win the finals, because I haven't seen any NBA player in my lifetime, and I'm still in my early 30s, be that generous with their salary, with their money. And I also add this, he's going to be an even more dangerous man as a player because the monkey's off his back now. The pressure's not there. He won it for his hometown. Like, at this point, the money isn't really even a factor anymore because Nike's paying you, according to his manager, over $1 billion now. So you're making more money from the swoosh than the NBA has ever paid you. So I mean, it's like, what do you do with that money? And it's this salary cap is really going to change the face of the league. And you do add that inflation in there because since we bring up Air Jordans that cost $125 now are will cost $125 in the mid to late 90s, even early 90s, are now like $190, and it's comparable now to to what the price was when you factor in the inflation. So like I get it.
I just looked up Jordan 13s the other day. I'm just going for $300, dude. They were launching for 125 in '96, I believe, '97. It's just Alonzo Mourning got a $110 million contract. I think that was right the year after. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he got $110 million, and that's the reason why Shaq left Orlando, actually. So the $100 million man has been here for a minute. We're just looking at the caliber of player who's getting it. I don't think a man like Alonzo Mourning back in the day is not worthy of that. He's definitely worthy of his money. We're just looking at how, man, you got Justin Hamilton getting $25 million for 2 years. Like, it's literally insane. But at the same time, I'm not mad at it. It's not my cash. I have to go to the games if I want to. It's these owners' money, and I just want to segue into what you all think about people who are like. 'Cause I saw this guy tweet. I don't know if you all saw this. I think he's irrelevant, but at the same time, he got a lot of retweets. Dude was saying, "Oh, with all this money, I'm not gonna watch these games because the players are gonna be spoiled." And to me, that's just the most ass. To me, that's the most ass backwards logic I've ever heard. Because
basically that's just trying to get Twitter hits.
Yeah, honestly, and the thing is though, there are actually people who believe that. Oh yeah, I'm not watching it. They're spoiled. Yet nobody is looking at how MLB players are getting 7-year deals for $400-300 million. Like, there's no cap in the MLB. So these guys are just getting lifetime deals for about $500 million. I saw a dude on Washington. I think he's I don't watch baseball, but that famous pitcher, he's really good. Dude got like a $400 million deal for like 4 years.
Oh, you're talking about? I think you're talking about Strasburg.
Yeah, like dude's getting like $400 million for 5 years.
Strasburg.
But y'all mad that?
That's like, you know what the perfect example is? Albert Pujols. This dude has 5 more years where he's making $25-30 million a year. He's 35, 36 years old. He's hitting like 220 and he's got 12 home runs. They got to pay him 5 more years of $25-30 million a year.
And I think more than half that is guaranteed. More than half of that is a guaranteed, man.
Yeah,
it's just
retire. I would just retire.
And that's like I'm good friends. Speaking of baseball,
crazy.
I'm good friends with Cam Bedrosian, who pitches for Los Angeles now. His dad, everybody knows, is Steve Bedrosian, pitched for the Phillies and the Braves. As everybody knows, he kind of struggled as a minor leaguer. Now he made the major league team last year, and then this year, consistent, whatever. And we had the conversation probably about 2-3 months ago. Basically just me congratulating him, and all that stuff. And his grandfather actually lives where I work. And so, I see Steve, quite a bit more than I see Cam. But just talking about salaries and things like that. And it's funny because, Cam doesn't make a lot of money, but obviously his dad did and still gets, endorsement deals and or residuals from endorsement deals and things like that. They live in a modest house. They don't have a grandioso house. And he said if you knew how many players throw money out on jewelry and cars, that basically could go to kids and, help, a development farm team that, might not have uniforms, the next year, just different things like that, as far as youth, leagues and stuff like that, it's just insane. And then they started a foundation for kids that basically whose parents can't afford to put them in sports. And that's the kind of stuff that I value. Yeah, Cam, he makes about $520,000 a year, but he turned around and threw down 125 of that, and his dad chipped in too, to get that foundation going, to get those kids into youth sports around in the area. And to me, that means a lot. Those kind of people are who you root for. You don't root for, the J.R. Smiths who wants to take his shirt off and sit there and I
never put it on again.
Yeah, I mean, I felt for him, when he said, his parents and all that, but I also look at you killed your best friend because you wanted to drive stupid.
Mm.
And you do things consistently, getting in, fights and clubs and stuff after you watch your best friend die at the hands of you driving, running a stop sign. And you don't learn. And many people can make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. But it's what you learn and take out of that to bring to the next person. I look at it all the time. What kid can I mentor to say, all right, this is what I did in school. This is why I'm not, where I'm supposed to be, in certain situations. You got to learn from it and take different routes. And, I'm a firm believer in environment plays a big pivotal role in how you grew up. I didn't grow up, yeah, I'm white, but I grew up in a urban area. I mean, my whole life, so,
Byron's laughing because I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
Byron knows.
I mean, T, but just because you're white, that don't mean that you have to be to grow up in suburban like privilege. Because you know what I mean. Like it's some white boys that grew up, with me, and like even Matt being the only white guy on the basketball team at my high school, it was interesting. But back to what you not to stray from the point you're making. Like I think that all of us being obviously like successful in our own right, intelligent males, one thing that I do know, and I hear it from Q, and I do know about Matt, and now you, and even Mike, is that they invest back in the youth. I meet so many children in Los Angeles that look up to me, which is to me it's just like, and I've worked with kids off and on since I graduated high school, and it's funny because they look up to me, and I see myself as just so imperfect and so like, just a hot mess. But, one thing I noticed with the kids of Los Angeles that I've met, they are so immensely like gifted, so deeply talented, but nobody has cultivated that gift. I met this one Hispanic kid, and I promise you, and I would call Matt and tell Matt, his game was identical to Pistol Pete Maravich. It's almost like the spirit of Pistol Pete is living in him. And I've played. He can do all the tricks, but fundamentally, and the things I saw, I've played full court basketball before I injured my leg recently, but before my knee injury, I played last summer. I would play full court basketball games with him, and what he would do in the open court was freaking. I've never had anybody throw the ball between my legs and run around me and lay it. And he's 18 at the time, and I'm just like, man. So I took him to the side. I was like, hey kid, like, what's your story? And he was telling me that mom didn't want him, told him he was never gonna amount to anything. He was gonna be in jail, and he was he suffered from severe neglect, and he had such deep emotion, and he was been physically abused, and I told him, I was like, look, kid, and he had a drug problem, but I was like, look, and he was sobered up by the time I met him, but he had abused drug. I said, kid, I talked to a coach about getting him. I was like, this kid can play, and from a marketing standpoint, him being a young Mexican kid too, he was amazing. And I think that, like, again, community, giving back. Y'all might think I'm biased, when it comes to like the Rockets or like my favorite players, but I mean, I look at, overall, I will always root for the guy that, like y'all talk about Dwight Howard, him getting paid this money for this and that. Now here's one thing here's one thing that I don't like about him. He came into the league, even though he was young out of high school. Oh, Jesus this, Jesus that. Okay, how do you think Jesus feels about your non-baby mamas? Not to judge him, and you're not married to any of the women, but you're so, you feel so entitled. What did you do for the community? Oh, yeah, I know you did a lot for the community, all right, because they're all your kids. You pay child support.
He didn't do a lot for the community coming back because he played. He was he was a year behind me in high school. He played at Southwest Christian Academy, and even when he was in high school, he still had that arrogant kind of swagger that he thought he was, basically, I'm going to the NBA, that's it. Then he came in, hit that basically, all right, I'm going to get in good with the media. I'm, basically, a child of God, all that stuff. 2 years in, he hooks up with the broad that was on,
Royce.
Basketball Wives or whatever.
Royce.
Yeah, and gets her pregnant. He basically wants nothing to do with the kid. Then you roll through 7 other women. I mean, come on, that's basically showing you faked it until you made it, and then you just left it behind.
I mean, dude, it's hard, man. It's hard to root for dudes like him or Adrian Peterson. It's very hard to root for those type of guys because, me, I like to help, kids who like the ball and whatnot. Like I'm only 19. You know what I'm saying? So like, I like to be the person that I needed when I was 14, 11, and younger. I want to be that person. And that's what every person, when they get in a position to do anything, should be, is try to be the person that they needed when they were young. And I try to do that a lot of the times. Like, I'll be at college, and they'll have, like, tours for, like, the kids from, like, the surrounding daycares and whatnot. And I'll sign up because I want to play ball with those kids because you never know, bro. You might mess around and see the next Iverson or see the next Stoudemire. You might see that kid. And even if you don't see that kid, you might be able to make a kid feel like he's that just by giving him that time. Yeah. And the thing that's very important when it comes to, these contracts and all this stuff, and I'm going to tie this in because over on Dead End Sports, if y'all follow that, at Dead End Sports, I did a podcast similar to this where we spoke on Ali and his passing. And I said, I was very emotional about it because the thing that fucks with me so much about the way that Ali passed away, and a lot of these, just in music, all these legends dying and whatnot, the thing that fucks with me the most is that we're not replacing these people with anyone who's willing to step up for real. And the thing about people like Ali, the thing about people like Prince is Ali was more on the forefront. Prince was so up under, like, he was like very shrewd in the way that he helped the community. Not a lot of people know, but all those solar panels that they put up in Oakland for people who live in California, half of those were put there by Prince because he wanted to help move the United States off of fossil fuels and stuff because he thought the planet was dying, and it is. And that's something that someone can do on the low. Ali, in his later years, when he became, very hunched over and very less pronounced because of his disease, it saddened me and it hurt me because I know that no one else would be willing to say the things that Ali said when he was younger. So I commend dudes like Brian who are helping kids through college. If you all want to see a fantastic story, Chris Paul, he had an E60 where it almost brought me to tears for real because Chris Paul, he helped this kid whose mom had cancer and he lived in Detroit. I don't know if y'all seen this. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, stop me. He helped this kid by giving him like 10 pairs of shoes. He invited him to a Clippers game. He let him do the breakdown in the huddle. And his mom literally left them when they were like 3 or 4 years old. He was a baby. She comes back. They're just forming a good relationship. 2 years later, she's dead from cancer. And they were forming a great relationship. He was going to games with her and all this stuff. And it's very sad and it's very unfortunate. But what Chris Paul is he's the light at the end of the tunnel for that kid. And you can be that for so many children with these contracts. You can be that for so many adults with these contracts. I know Anthony Davis, I think he bought an apartment for this mom with 4 kids in Chicago. Nobody knows about that. Everyone just looks at he's out here buying watches and stuff. I got stories. I know dudes who in the NBA. There's a guy I'm not gonna say his name. He buys a Rolex for every playoff win. You know, he doesn't give a shit about his community. He doesn't care about the state that he's in or anything like that. But he buys a Rolex every playoff win. It's stupid. But then you got the good dudes like Bron. You got guys like Wade who hold, I think, a free camp every summer for kids to come learn skills. These type of things matter. These type of things matter to children. These type of things matter to me as a fan, because if I see you out there doing dirt like Dwight and Adrian Peterson, all this stuff, I can't rock with you like that. I have no hate towards you. I just can't rock with you because you don't have the end goal in mind. And the end goal in mind is basically what someone like Brandon Marshall said. Brandon Marshall, when he was on the Bears, he said, football is my platform, not my purpose. And I think a lot of guys have that messed up. A lot of guys have it backwards. Basketball is my purpose, and that's not it, dude. Basketball is your platform to see the change that you want to be in your immediate family, your community, or the world at large, dude. And a lot of these guys, I'm not saying that they should go out there and be on the front lines, taking on all injustices throughout the world. I'm not saying that. But just by affecting your small community, if every athlete just did that, we would see change in the cities and the inner cities overnight. And yeah, it shouldn't be their responsibility to do that. But if they don't do it because the government ain't doing it, if they don't do it, then who will? It's got to be us, and it's got to be them.
Let me say this. First of all, I want to say you're wise beyond your years for 19. I wouldn't have, the way you speak is like you have this just vast like experience, and you've been on the earth for 19 years. And whoever is working with you is doing an excellent job, and whoever raised you, I wanna say that you too as well, Brent. You too as well, Brandon, because I've known you since you were like 11 years old, and I think that you've become a great young man. I want to piggyback on what you said about Ali, because it was something I wanted to discuss on one of these shows, like like how we did the OJ Pete. But here's what I got to say about him. Not only did the man stand up for his own community, and it's sad because my parents told me about who he was at a young age, and I would see they would have like back in the day they would have like these infomercials of like Lifetime would have like all his fights and interviews, and I would just see this man and he'd be like float like a butterfly, and I'm like, why is he so significant? And when they explained it to me, I thought he was funny, and I liked his rhymes, and I thought he was so conceited. But not only did he do for his community, like I saw a video interview with him and the guy who ran the fan club, his fan club back in the day. It was a Caucasian man, and Ali was telling the story, basically how this man was like living in poverty, and he was doing a fan club, and how Ali helped him, and the fan club had actually, it was doing really well, and it kind of fell off, and he was like putting money back into him, and he was really basically allowing that man to tell his testimony. And I don't see him as just a civil rights activist, but a humanitarian. And boxing was absolutely his platform. And I think that we truthfully have to get back to that. Mike and I, in our days in show business, which aren't done yet, is part of the reason why I'm in Los Angeles now. I've watched Mike, and he won't brag on it, but I'll brag for him. I'll say it. I've seen him do food drives. You can't, Mike had a reputation. Mike put on some of the best parties, the best events in Houston. Yes. There were times when he didn't charge anything at the door. He said, "Bring your canned goods." Okay? And we're raising money. Our friend's mother died of cancer. They need money to give her a proper burial. I also look at one of my favorite comics, which is Spider-Man growing up, and this is a proverb that you'll find it in different places, just reiterated, or in different ways. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, when you are gifted to make it to the NFL, the NBA, that is a great responsibility that comes with that, and you have to be accountable in one way or another. whether you choose to give, whether you choose to be charitable, or be mature, or you choose to be selfish, you're gonna pay for it anyway. A la Dwight Howard, even Scottie Pippen does for his community, but I shouldn't even say that. But like, you're gonna pay for that anyway. Oh, you don't want to give it? Oh, okay. You'll succumb to these thoughts. You'll succumb to these hoes, all 9 of them, and they'll get it anyway. You're beyond the winning phase. You better ball out next year and get the max contract, because you're gonna be paying for child support for years to come, per kid. So it's like, again, when you have that platform, that was such a beautiful analogy. Like when he was like, this is not my purpose. It's my platform. Because what I learned with working with kids is this: no matter how I feel about myself or what my role is there, I am a role model. I'm a big brother. I am a dad. I'm not even from LA, and I've got kids tracking me down from some of the worst neighborhoods in Los Angeles, calling me in my workplace like, yo, I want to thank you for everything you did for me. If I didn't have you, one kid calling me, I'm out of the gangs. I moved out of LA. I'm working on a proposal for a multi-million-dollar grant to build a community center for the city I live in now, because we were void of that. But I want to thank you because, and it's not necessarily by what I said, because what I learned is that people watch what you do more than they listen to the words that come out of your mouth. So whether you like it or not, it's people that's going to look up to Pete just for doing this show. You know what I mean? No matter what, there's somebody, people are always watching. So yeah, I mean, they're getting these contracts. What are we going to do with it? You will not, if you spend $250 million in a lifetime, they need to take you out in the woods somewhere with baseball bats and wear you out. You know what I mean? I would like to see, all right, you getting these contracts, let's do something with it. And if we're not gonna and put it in the community or invest it in those that need it, you better have it 20 years from now. You better have something to show for it. 20, 30. We better not see you on 30 for 30.
Yeah, we had a conversation yesterday. We were like, you know what? With all this money being handed out, I don't want to see anybody on 30 for 30 broke part 2, because it's no excuse. I mean, again, a lot of these people come from places where they never had it before, but still, you should be able to learn from the people. You should be able to learn from that first episode of 30 for 30 Broke, that first documentary. You should be able to watch the headlines of Antoine Walker, blowing $150 million in his career. You should be able to learn from things like that and see, like, you know what? I need to be smart with this money. But at the same time, I'm a leader in the community. And I hope to see some good things come for that. And I like to piggyback on what a lot of you guys said, is that it starts in the community. It starts with us and us being role models because we're there on the ground. And it also would be very nice if more of these athletes use their platform to make changes in these communities and impact the world. Like, not to go too far off, a lot of people look at this presidential election coming up as like something that's going to affect every single person. And it's like, when you really think about it, decisions that presidents make very, very rarely affect your life on a day-to-day basis. Where it is in cities with local elections, where you have mayors and city councilmen, you have policies and things put in place within the cities and the communities you actually live in. Local voting is as important as presidential voting, if not more. And I think that's part of it as well, is like what we do in our communities locally can have an outward effect. The kid that looks up to you, spending the extra 15 minutes with that kid in the gym and giving them life lessons and things like that. Like, I maxed out at JV. My senior year, my coach told me, he's like, look, you're not I don't see you playing many minutes. But throughout,
Yes.
Hey, be real with it though.
I'm gonna be real with it. But throughout basketball, I had some coaches that were just kind of like going through the motions and they wanted to win. But every now and then I had coaches that would give me life lessons and wisdom about, things to do that apply not only on the court but off the court. And it's those things that I took with me, those things that are lasting. And I remember one coach I talked to, he told me something. He was like, a lot of people want to be really good in basketball, but a lot of people aren't really good in life. And I was kind of confused at it, and I asked him, and he was like, well, think of it. A lot of people want to be great basketball players and superstars like Michael Jordan and Bo Jackson, but how many really want to be great people? How many want to treat people well and be treated well as a result? Some people are in it just for them, for me, and some people are about we, us, the community. So that really stuck with me at an early age. Shout out to Coach Collins, Spring Oaks Middle School.
I think that's a good segue. Do we talk about Boston? Because if we're talking about kids who have a good support system, Jaylen Brown is that guy. If you know anything about Jaylen Brown,
thank you. He's my guy. I think he's gonna win Rookie of the He'll be runner up. He'll be runner up.
Jaylen Brown is a brilliant young dude. Like, honestly, dude's a chess player. I think he speaks 2 different languages. I think he speaks 2 more languages. Like, dude is really, really, smart. Basically, what I'm trying to say. And I think Boston is in a good position for him to grow. I think his potential is he's either going to be boom or bust. Now, there is a dividing line on Jaylen Brown that a lot of kids don't have. And like we said, community is everything. So if you're telling me Jaylen Brown has the work ethic, if you're telling me Jaylen Brown has the attitude, if you're telling me Jaylen Brown has the smarts, if you're telling me Jaylen Brown has the IQ, he has the desire, you couple that with just hustle, then you can make a couple $1 million in this league. Now you couple that with his huge athletic upside, then you might have a potential star on your hands if you groom him the correct way. Dude could turn into a Jimmy Butler for all we know. The way that he conducts himself. Dude doesn't even have an agent. He's managed by the Players Association because he wants to keep more money for himself. He's smart like that. And I think we were going to get into Boston, if I'm not mistaken, because they had a deal that went down with Horford, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't know, man. Like, I want to get everybody's thoughts on that too, because I don't know if that's going to be enough. Here, my position on Boston is this, and Ryan, half of Off the Bench, you can follow us on Twitter at OFFTHABNCH. Half of Off the Bench, which is my partner Ryan, he huge Boston fan, huge Celtics fan. I mean, diehard, knows the history, all this and that, reads articles on them every single minute of every single day. And the thing about Boston that gives me cause to pause is just how high the hopes are of those who think KD wants to come there. Now, I don't mean to rain on parades or piss on anyone's dreams, but dude, it is very, very, very unlikely that KD goes to Boston. It's very unlikely that somebody like Al Horford is going to lure him there when he has a younger and possibly a guy with more upside in Adams. It's very unlikely that he leaves to go play with Avery Bradley because of his defense when Oladipo has just, if not comparable defense. It's very unlikely that he leaves to go play with a 5'9" point guard when he has a 6'2", 6'3" athletic freak of nature at a point guard. He's very unlikely to leave to go to Boston play with Brad Stevens when he was 1 game away from the NBA Finals.
Right.
1 game away. And I don't want to make anyone feel like I'm shitting on Boston and, I hate what they're doing. No, I do like what they're doing. I just think that there is a certain amount of talent that is going to lure a star there, and they're not there yet. Isaiah Thomas is good. He overachieved last season, dude. He overachieved, and he's not that great. He's really good. He's really good, but he's not that great like he was last season. Last season was a product of John Wall missing the entire playoffs. Last year was a product of the Bucks completely reverting back to terrible status.
Yeah.
Last year was a product of D. Rose having blurred vision for 30 games. The Celtics, they did what they should have done. Make a top 3, top 5 seed in the East when a lot of key teams were hurt. And I don't think Horford spells KD's coming now.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Q and I talked. We went back and forth on Twitter, and he, we were on the same page. Like, KD goes to Boston. Maybe that puts them in the conference finals this year, next year. Horford. What does that do? Like, Horford just going to Boston without KD. What does that do? Guarantee Boston a second round spot in the playoffs.
Basically.
It does nothing for them. They really didn't get that much better because, they lost to an Atlanta team who was, they
weren't that good.
Let's be honest. Like, Q knows, Pete, you're in Atlanta, Mike knows. Atlanta was not a team anybody was scared of.
Right.
And this is and we weren't scared of them last year when they won 60 games. And Boston loses to these guys in 6.
And the thing that killed me. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they lose to these guys in 6. You sign Al Horford. What's that? Good enough to get you by Atlanta. If you're Kevin Durant, maybe it gets you to the finals 3 out of 5 years because LeBron is getting older. How is J.R. Smith going to keep? Is he going to continue to play this way? There's some questions in Cleveland, not many, but does Kevin Durant going to Boston put them in the finals every year? No, but Q and I talked and agreed. He goes to Golden State. He goes to San Antonio. Maybe the Clippers, if you can keep J.J. Redick and that whole thing going. Yeah, he can get to the finals every year and have a chance, but going to Boston guarantees him maybe the conference finals. But then you go to Golden State, San Antonio, you're in the finals.
The thing about it is with Durant, if you're Danny Ainge, and basically everybody's probably seen the picture by now, you have to bring Tom Brady to a meeting. Standing behind him is Marcus Smart and Kelly Olynyk. Those are the 2 guys you bring to a meeting. If I'm looking at that, I'm laughing my ass off, turning around and walking out and say, y'all got it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I watch basketball, and I barely know what Kelly Olynyk looks like. I got to think about when he messed up Kevin Love's shoulder, and I'd be like, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
He has long hair.
Yeah, exactly. I remember you. You look familiar.
Kelly looks like he's dressing up as Thor from Avengers every single time.
But the thing about it, there's no Eastern Conference team that Kevin Durant is going to sit there and say, all right, I'm going to leave Russell Westbrook. I'm going to leave Oladipo. I'm going to leave Steven Adams, who's
it's a bonus now.
And you have pieces that aren't just for right now. You have pieces that are 3-4 years down the road that you can utilize.
And the thing
if Westbrook stays.
Presti is such a genius because this is why I say Orlando messed this up because they basically helped them retain KD. They shouldn't have done that move. They should have let them drown whatever, I guess you could say that. They should have let them stew in it. And instead, you give them Sabonis, who is going to come in. He's a college-ready guy who can come in, a league-ready guy who can come in and rebound for you off top. Off top, that's what he's good at. So now Cantor is expendable. So now you can move Cantor, free up more cap to bring in more money for KD or more money for new guys. You got Ilyasova who can stay at the top of the key or camp in the corners. You can kick out to him. Now you have Oladipo who can handle the ball and let Russell play shooting guard and let him just run free on the entire offense.
And
now
he can defend.
And he can defend. So now you got 2 guys who can defend on the perimeter with Russell and Oladipo.
And now Deion Waiters is expendable too.
And Deion Waiters is gone too because now you got Ilyasova Roberson, I think he's going to get better. I think he's going to build
Yeah.
upon what he did this season.
Mhm.
His shot's only going to get a little bit better. I'm not saying he's going to improve vastly, but he's going to shoot much better than he did this season. And why am I going to go leave so I can maybe see if Danny Ainge can build something in 2 years when I have something right now? If the proposition is, Katie, the best people to win right now is us, then you're lying to me. Boston is lying to you if they're telling you you're the best to win right now. Because I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. And y'all can think this is blasphemous or not. You put KD on the Sixers, if Embiid's healthy, that's a better team than what the Celtics have.
Yeah, because they have
so.
they have better bigs.
Yeah,
You
Because who do you have on the Celtics? I mean, you got Horford now, but Horford's basically, 14 and 9?
He's 30
So
years old.
He's solid, but, you
That's
you got
not gonna put you
Olynyk,
over the
who's
top.
a stretch, stretch 5, basically. Tyler Zeller is garbage. Then you got Sullinger and Amir Johnson, who are both free agents, technically. And so you don't really have a lot. So if you are Boston, if you don't get KD, what do? You look at the offseason as Al Horford, okay, that's great. But your pieces are basically going to have to step up now. If you're James Young, you're going to have to step up. If you're RJ Hunter, you're going to have to step up. Those guys aren't stepping up anytime soon. They're D-League guys. So then that basically leaves you in the spot that Jaylen Brown's going to get Evan Turner's minutes. Yeah, that's good for his development and things like that, but they're not going to be more than the 5th seed this season at best.
I think I can speak on where they go from here because, once again, half of off the bench is a huge Celtics fan. Ryan, I can hear him. If he's watching this, he's probably infuriated by what I'm saying right now. But where Boston goes right now, their whole rebuild is predicated upon Danny Ainge and these Brooklyn picks. Now, a lot of Boston fans don't want to hear it, but Brooklyn has made a lot of good moves this offseason and this draft.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be good enough to be like the 10th or 9th seed in the East. Not make the playoffs, obviously, but they'll be in 9th or 10th place. I think they'll be good enough to be mediocre. I think Jeremy Lin's going to overachieve. I think Rondae Hollis-Jefferson has defense that you can plug in anywhere in this league. I think Brook Lopez is going to play for more dollars coming up. I think that you have guys like, what's his name? They just signed Trevor Booker, I believe.
Yeah, Trevor Booker out of Utah.
Yeah.
He's going to play he's going to play good for Brooklyn. And the whole purpose of Boston's rebuild is for this draft and next free agency. I think realistically, Danny Ainge knows that the chances of Kevin Durant saying, you know what, I'm going to go play with a 5'9" point guard who lost to the Atlanta Hawks is almost zero. But he's trying to lay the groundwork so when next free agency comes, he can say, hey, look, and just pick a name out of it's like 20 players in next year's draft I think will be good players in this league. I think there's like 10 potential superstars in next year's draft. And pick a name out of those 10. They're going to plug him in if they get the number 1 pick, if Brooklyn is that bad, because they get the pick swap. So now they have a great rookie, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Isaiah Thomas, and Avery Bradley. Now, many Boston fans, if you all follow any Boston fans, if you know any Boston fans, they value people like Crowder, Avery Bradley, and Marcus Smart like they are superstars. And that blows my mind. It blows my mind. I asked Ryan, I said, Ryan, would you trade Bradley for Aaron Gordon? He was like, no, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. He values Avery Bradley's defense that much. I asked him, would you, and this was before the draft, I asked him, would you trade the 3rd pick, Bradley, and Crowder for Jimmy Butler? He was like, I don't know, man.
I would give that away.
That's a lot. That's
a
lot.
About that on our show. You got to do that deal. Same with the Sixers. If you say if I'm the Sixers and you say Okafor for the 3rd pick and Marcus Smart, I would have took that all day. I'm not a big Marcus Smart fan, but if you're Boston, Okafor is going to give you more than Smart's ever going to give you.
And that's why I don't understand where Okafor's value is in the NBA. From what I'm understanding, apparently he has zero value, which makes no sense. I think GMs are lying. I think somebody's lying.
Yes.
And I think somebody's playing hard to get. I think people are trying to wait out free agency. But I think he'll definitely be gone before the season because we cannot go into a season with Embiid, Simmons, Noel, Okafor, and plus we got kids like Rashawn Holmes and Jeremy Grant who are playing the afford.
And Saric is coming over.
And Sarge is coming over. He'll probably be sitting at the 30 stretch 4. And it makes no sense how everyone is saying, oh, Okafor, he's not that good. I'm like, dude, he's 19. He can already get you 18 and 7. How much is Al Jefferson getting you, Indiana? How many? What did he do last season that made you think, you know what? Let's sign him to a 3-year deal. Dude is like 31, 32 years old, and people are already writing Okafor off. And as a Sixers fan, it pisses me off because I don't hate Jahlil Okafor. I think he's just not right for the situation that we're in right now. I think he could help Chicago right now. I think he could definitely help a team like Boston before Horford, but now they have a better player in Horford. But, dude, who's to say? Who are we to say that Okafor does not develop into a good rebounder? Who are we to say that Okafor doesn't develop into an average defender in the post or at least someone who can get you a block a game?
But I'd rather have Noel than Okafor right now.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy about Okafor, though, is that people don't give him a lot of credit for. If you watch the games, you know, he actually has a decent face-up game. He can catch it and beat you off the dribble. He's
because he just bullies you. He has
do
that,
some things.
He has that Diao game, but it's more faster. You know how Diao can just bully people because he's bigger than everybody?
Yeah.
Okafor can do that because he has footwork and he has the weight on him. I don't understand. See, here's the thing about Boston, and you'll probably agree with me as a Sixers fan too. If Brad Stevens is so great and he made Evan Turner look good.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you don't want to see what he can do with Jahlil Okafor? That's insanity to me. How you can say, oh no, he's a finished product. How is he a finished product?
Call me crazy. If they traded for Jahlil Okafor, Brad Stevens would make him look like the best player on the Boston Celtics.
That's what I do. I said to Ryan, I said, yo, you trade for Jahlil Okafor right now. Give him an off season with Brad. Get him on the regimen that Evan Turner was doing. And I promise you, you will see this dude get you at least 20 and 8, 20 and 9 the next season.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because if Brad Stevens is so great and Brad Stevens is so amazing, and I think he is, if he's that great, then why wouldn't you want to see him take a top 3 prospect from last year's loaded lottery draft and see what he can do with them? He's 4 years, over 4 years, he's making $16 million. How many years did they just pay Al Jefferson to go be a backup or go start?
Yeah.
They paid him
He's got to go start.
Like $46 million?
I think
Four years, $113 million.
You know what's crazy? I think not Brad Stevens. I think Danny Ainge overvalues some of the guys on his team.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I don't know who it was. It was Woj or David Aldridge. One of those guys was saying that GMs around the league do not value Boston's assets as much as people think. Nobody's looking at Avery Bradley, like you said. Nobody's looking at Marcus Smart as a great asset. So they're overvaluing their guys.
Right.
You know, and undervaluing a guy like Okafor. Like if I would take Okafor in a heartbeat over Al Jefferson.
Yeah.
Because he's younger, he's more impressionable, and he can build upon his inefficiencies. I'm not saying Jahlil Okafor will turn into Nerlens on defense, but dude, he might be able to turn into at least an average post defender, a guy who can fill the lane and alter shots.
Yeah.
At least
you know, if J.J. Redick, and we've talked about this a lot on here, Pete knows, if J.J. Redick can be an above-average defender team-wise and all that, Okafor, who's more gifted athletically than J.J. Redick ever was, can be a serviceable defensive player.
Right.
It just makes, like, here's another thing. As a Sixers fan, it makes me angry when they're like, oh, he's a bad defender. Well, peep this, fam. How do you have, because apparently the Boston fans, they have good logic, but then they contradict themselves with that same logic. They'll say, we have some of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA in Bradley, Smart, and Crowder. And I'm like, so you don't want to put Okafor behind that? That's a good cushion.
Yes.
You do realize that Okafor, all you would have to do if you beat those guys,
Put your hands up, right.
Put your hands
You
up.
can
That's
mask,
all you gotta do.
mask the deficiencies with good perimeter defense.
That's
By the
all
time
you
they
got to do.
slow that player getting to the hole, he, like you said, just put his hands up.
Just put your hands up, go straight up. Go
And he's
straight
their
up.
go-to on offense. Him and Isaiah Thomas can be their offense. And Isaiah Thomas, really, if you wanted to, you can say bring him off the bench and let, Marcus and Avery start and bring Isaiah off the bench as a spark plug. So you throw the ball into Okafor and score. I mean, he's going to get his 20 points. And he showed, good flashes, like Matt, like you said, good face-up game, quick off the dribble. Actually showed some decent handles.
I've seen him, and you as a Sixers fan know, I've seen him take Karl Anthony Towns' lunch.
Yeah.
I'm talking face-up and in the post. Karl Anthony Towns, no one picking the draft. He's bullying him. He crossed him up. Like, come on now. Those aren't just like things that.
That's what I'm saying.
Those aren't anomalies.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I'm one of the few guys, and call me nuts. I think Karl Anthony Towns is damn near one of the 10 best players in the league right now. He's that talented. Okafor ate his lunch for this season. Okafor took it to that boy. He won that matchup. He had that boy in foul trouble. Towns couldn't do nothing with Okafor.
Because
Okafor's not a bum.
You can't teach footwork. But I'm going to tell you, you can't teach footwork. You can't teach touch around the rim. But I can tell you what you can teach. It is a lot easier to teach a guy who is smart to learn how to play offense or defense than it is to teach someone who has no IQ to do that. Smart players will learn the repetition of how to play defense and how to play offense if they're bad at one or the other. That's why Noel hasn't necessarily panned out into this offensive juggernaut, but he has the IQ to know that he's a rim runner. He knows that, so he knows his role. Okafor's IQ, you go to Duke, you have to pay attention to at least one class, so you're smart. And he knows what to do with his hands. He's just in the wrong position to do it. You have Noel clogging up the lane because he can't go out there and shoot. So you have two guys out of position playing in the wrong area. And I want to wrap it up, but Okafor, someone needs to take him, man, because he's going to be good. Yes. He's just not right for Philly.
Yes. Yeah. He's going. You know what? I'm going to say it right now. He's going to be a better player than Al Jefferson ever was, because he can do some things on the perimeter with his ball handling, and I actually think he can be a good 15-foot shooter. He shoots a good ball. It's not a broke form shot. He just has to work on it.
Right.
He's going to be good.
No,
I like Okafor. I always did.
I mean, if I'm the Sixers, I'm moving Okafor before I move Noel, but I think it's probably going to end up being the other way around. But I'm excited. Of course, I think Q, same as you about Embiid, seeing what he can do. Finally, Dario Saric is coming over. I'm personally happy we got rid of Isaiah Cannon's not coming back, so I'm happy about that.
I don't like him. I don't like him.
We get Jared Bayless. At least Bayless can get the ball in the hole.
He shot 43% from three. That's all Simmons needs. And the thing is, I know you want to move on, but the Sixers are potentially going to have 2 top 5, top 10 picks next season.
Yeah.
And this is in a draft with point guards and shooting guards who can shoot the basketball and they're athletic. Yep. There are guys like Jason Tatum, Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith. I'm just naming a few. There's so many more. And if the Sixers can get 1 or 2 of those guys, De'Aaron Fox.
The Sixers need De'Aaron Fox. Yes.
I know.
Yes, from Kentucky. Yes.
He's going to be a beast. But if we can get any of those guys, you plug that in with Simmons. I'm going to tell you right now, if we get 2 top 10 picks, we're automatically going to be better than the Boston Celtics. Automatically.
I hope so.
Call me crazy, both of y'all. If the Sixers get 2 top 10 picks next year, De'Aaron Fox should be one of them. They're a top 4 team in the East. Not next year, but that year they get those picks.
Yeah,
20, what would that be? We got 2016-17, Sixers are top 4 in the East. I actually think, call me crazy, and I said Minnesota's going to be at least a 6 seed next year in the West. Philadelphia is going to have a shot at the playoffs this year if Ben Simmons I think Ben Simmons is going to be close to an All-Star this year. If he is, Sixers are going to be close to the playoffs next year.
Embiid is going to have a lot to say about that too. If Embiid can compliment him and he stays healthy.
Yes.
People don't even realize though, Embiid, his ceiling, people were saying Elijah one, dude.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
come on,
I was
bro,
going to
like-
get to that. Yes.
Like,
Yes, I think the Sixers are going, because I told Pete this in a lot of our other shows, and the Sixers play hard. They play good. They just did not have talent. They have talent now. They've got horses and a dark horse. And Pete's going to like this. He likes this guy. I do too. If Stauskas can make that open jump shot, watch out.
Simmons is a passer. He's going to have a lot to do with Stauskas being good this year.
Yes.
Stauskas, Stauskas tried to play with a worse roster than the Kings, but he plays hard. And
but he also played on, he basically had the ball in his hands a lot. And in all honesty, he does have a mixture of mid-range game that he can utilize. But right now, I think the focus he needs to have is getting better defensively, of course, to stay on the court, and then being able to knock down that corner three. Because that's where he's going to make his money.
Dude, I can see it right now. I can see, Embiid gets the rebound, kicks it to Simmons, going down the floor. Stauskas. It's over. Like, I can see that. It's over, you know what I'm saying?
You know what's funny about Stauskas is, and everybody here agreed, that dude is super athletic, really.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't move laterally well. That's why his on-ball defense will never. He's got to turn himself into a good team defender, understand angles, rotation.
Switches.
Because he just exactly. He just doesn't understand. He just doesn't have lateral movement. That's his one weakness. He moves terrible laterally.
I mean, Golden State can hide Curry, so I'm pretty sure that we can hide Stauskas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm one who will defend and say Curry's not a bad defender. He's just not.
No, he's not bad. He's just not going to be able to guard the top.
I think it's blasphemous when people say Curry can't play defense. Well, he didn't guard Westbrook good. He didn't guard Kyrie Irving good. Tell me one guy who can lock those guys down. Not a goddamn nobody.
Nope.
Nobody. You saw?
All right, guys.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, I'm going to roll with the last topic, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're going over 2 hours.
Wow, that's a record. Killed it.
What's one guy that signed so far that you think is the most underrated signing in free agency so far? I know we're early. We're only 2 days in. Kevin Durant hasn't made his decision. Spoiler alert, it's coming in 24 to 36 hours. And he's probably going to end up going to OKC. But
who do I think is going to be a signing that we look back on and be like, damn, that was a steal?
Yeah.
Jan Mahimi in Washington.
Okay.
I think we're going to look back on that. I think that's a pick and roll guy for John Wall, defensive guy.
Yes.
Him, and also Joe Johnson in Utah is going to come up huge for them down the stretch of the season.
As a closer.
As a closer, that's when ACs, like, you know how a couple years ago the Pelicans, they were fighting to get in, and they had to get a couple clutch shots from AD and a couple clutch shots. Joe Johnson is going to be that veteran to keep them afloat and keep them steady as they in pursuit for the AC. I like him. I like Mahimi. And I also like the Delhi dude. I think Delhi is going to help Milwaukee get back in the playoffs.
Okay.
My underrated signing has not signed yet. And I don't care if he re-signs or not. My underrated guy is Alan Crabb. And I'm going to throw another guy out there if the Sixers can get him. I've always been a fan of this guy, as Mike knows, Dion Waiters. Yes, Pete. Give me Dion Waiters in Philadelphia.
Oh, I can't get on that bandwagon.
I absolutely yes. You know what? Here's why, Mike. But Mike, you know I'm a fan. I've been a fan of his since the draft when he came out. You know this.
I love Dion Waiters, man, but he makes terrible basketball decisions.
He's not going to have to do that though.
I know he's
You
not
want
going
to
to do that, but I mean, it's like this. I think he's had some. He had he's had flashes. Like in the playoffs against San Antonio, he had
Golden State. Hell,
no, yeah, Golden State he had good moments. But you look at the San Antonio series. It started in that game 2 when he threw that bad pass. That was like and the elbow to Ginobili. That was like. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that, man.
Ginobili's foot was on the line.
It was either.
Foot was on the line.
Yeah, his foot was on the line too. But let's say this: Waiters, this playoffs has been either awesome or completely terrible. There's been no in between. It has been polar opposites, and he has not been that consistent third scorer that OKC needs, which having Oladipo solidifies. But no, I don't think the only reason he can be underrated is if he becomes that consistent player and lives up to all the potential that we've been wanting.
I absolutely think he can. And I love the Eagles shirt that Q's got on. I just noticed that. I just noticed it.
Go grab that, man.
Yeah, he about to walk down the sidewalk and
Dude, real quick, man. Quick story. So I'm at J.C. Penney's, right? It's like 2 years ago. I was like maybe 6'4" then, and bruh, I was at J.C. Penney's, and these 2 white girls stopped me. It was one girl's mom, and her daughter was like probably like 19 or something, and she was like, "Excuse me, do you play for Temple?" And I was just like, "Yeah." So what's up? And I didn't. Obviously, I don't. So she was like, oh my God, are you the guy that we saw last week drop the triple double? I was like, nah, I'm his friend. I'm the one coming off the bench though. And he was like, oh, what? So it's like the mom is like, you know, she was like, oh, really? Can we please get an autograph or like a picture or something? And I said, oh, I always got time for all the fans. So I'm like, you know, I'm posing the picture and shit. She's got like 4 pictures deep right now. And the other girl turns to her mom and was like, are you sure you went to Temple? She's like, yeah, he's tall as hell. Of course he went to Temple. And like they just walked off. It was the most random shit. But this type of stuff happens all the time, bro. Yeah. But I'm with you on Waiters, bro. I think Waiters can be good. I think Waiters for a good deal. I don't want no 4 years, $75 million. I don't want that.
You know what? I would give him 4 years, $50 million.
I wouldn't hate it. As long as
that's pretty much what they gave Della.
Too far for the years, though.
Yeah, I think 4 years. You know why? Because look, in Game 7, the most important game of the season, who was the best playmaker for the Oklahoma City Thunder against Golden State? It was Dion Waiters. He's a baller. He is a gamer. He will show up when it counts. That's
better yet for Waiters. He ought to go to either Brooklyn or Sacramento.
Well, he's not going to Sacramento because they got a Flalo.
Yeah, but he'd start over a Flalo. Then he can go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn can have him.
Hey, Pete, I know you're gonna disagree. Hey, you're gonna love him in Philly. Trust me. Dion Waiters can hoop. That dude is nice.
I don't want a backcourt of Waiters and Bayless though. That's.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's a little deceiving. Only because I think, and you know this, Pete. And Q will, Simmons is going to be the primary ball handler, not the only ball, but the primary ball handler. And I think that will change some things. And Waiters will get a chance to do his thing. I don't think he'll feel like he's just an afterthought.
Well, you know, I think a better option. And I can't believe we haven't done this, but I like Troy Daniels from Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't believe we didn't go after him.
And he doesn't get any playing time for Charlotte last year.
Zero. And I don't know if Sam Hinkie were still here, he'd be calling about guys like Troy Daniels because Troy Daniels, I think he had like 6 threes in a playoff game at one time.
Yeah, when he was with the Rockets.
And he
had a game winner.
And he had a game winner. And it's like he's from VCU too.
And you can get him for cheap.
I can sign him to a 4-year, $2 million contract if I wanted to. So it's like, why are we not going after him? I know Dion is from the city, and I know he's from Northtown, but it is what it is. If he comes here, I don't want him on no 4-year, $80 million. I want him on like a 2-year, $25 million. I want him on that. I want a trial run and then he'll earn his money. I really want to see, because 2 years is when we're going to have our stopgap guards.
Hey, Q, so would you give him a 2-year, $25 million contract, but that second year is a team option?
I would do that.
Yeah,
basically, if you take him out of that OKC system, I want to see what he does outside of that system, as far as being around a good culture of guys, things like that. Now the Sixers, basically have a lot of young talent around them. Yeah. They're looking more for veterans and stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm Waiters, I got to work.
But one thing about the Sixers is this. We know Brett Brown, he's an outstanding coach. I'm glad they kept him around. We all know he is a Popovich disciple, and know what that means. Yeah, and I saw a tweet. I forgot who said it. It was a reputable guy on an insider. Philadelphia is going after veterans hard. They've offered some contracts to some veterans. They want to win next year.
I think what we're doing right now, people agree, is we're trying to give these guys a reward for sticking along with us through the tanking process. Correct. And that reward is not only good for Brett, but it's also good for the players, because we're getting them experience on what it feels like to actually try to win with these players in this system. And what Brett Brown, his whole philosophy is play together and play hard. That's his main. That's his mantra. So if we got Stauskas, and by the way, I love Robert Covington. And I was going to be sad if we traded him for the 3rd pick, and I'm kind of glad that we didn't, because once again, that next year draft is going to look so good that we stood patient, and I'm glad that we're not going out and trying to sign a whole bunch of okay dudes for maximum money just so we can try to win. Yeah. That's the old regime.
You've got some okay dudes with Stauskas, and maybe we could be better.
Yeah, and we already have talent that we need to, I want to see what Jeremy Grant can develop into.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to see what, people like Stauskas, Covington. I want to see what somebody like Hollis Thompson can do when he has a guy who lives for dishing to people.
Right.
I want to see what Stauskas can do, because these guys have been playing in systems where Ish Smith is the main point guard.
Yeah.
That is not the best environment for a developing squad, and that's why
they're playing with talent this year.
That's why I got mad when people got pissed off at Sam Hinkie for not trying to get anybody. I'm like, dude, do you not realize that the whole point of the process was make sure you don't get anybody? Don't get anybody so they don't have to deal with this. Get young guys who just want to prove who they are. The guys who stick and show promise will stay around. That's why Covington is here, because he balled out on a team that had nobody. So if a guy who can get his own shot like Covington plays with a guy like Simmons, I think he's going to excel much better. And I think it's a much better possibility that he could be our backup small forward of the future instead of someone like Allen Crabbe,
Yeah. Speaking of Ben Simmons, he's signing his first NBA contract tonight, according to Mark Stein of ESPN.
Yeah. So he'll be available for Monday night when they play the Spurs.
Yeah. Mike, do you got anybody you think that's underrated before I go? I'll let you go first.
Not really. I think looking at the contracts that are out there for KD compared to the money that's been given out these first 2 days, I think his contract, when you stack it up versus what other guys are getting, is probably going to look underrated. Because I think if he signs for 2 years, it's going to be $18 million a season max, So he's going to look like a steal. But I can't really think of a guy that's a steal right now. I think Durant, as soon as he signs, there's going to be a lot more movement, and people realize that, we had false hopes. We thought we had a chance to get Durant this year, but we really didn't. So I think when that other foot falls, we'll start to see some more deals. A potential one I will throw out there, Rajon Rondo. There are some teams that need point guards, and he is available. I'm curious to see what he's going to get on the market after a couple years, kind of being in the basement of the league with
Do
Sacramento
you
and
want
Dallas.
Mike, do you want him on the Bulls?
Man, listen.
I had to throw that out there.
You know
Well,
what?
they
I
maybe
want
because
him
they
for
don't
this sole reason. It's gonna be
because they don't have
exactly.
Antoine Moore.
It's gonna be exactly like Derrick Rose in New York. It's either gonna be a triumphant return for Rondo, or it's gonna explode, and the Bulls will finally get a lottery pick. So, but I
Yes.
think with a guy like Rondo, they'll end up average, and they won't get a pick anyway. So,
You know what Rondo needs to do? You know what Rondo needs to do? If Rondo's smart and it's risky as hell, but playoff big for him, Rondo needs to take the veteran minimum to go play in San Antonio
ooh,
Yes.
yes.
and prove
Yes.
himself. Prove himself. Oh, Rondo's got it again. Now he's gonna make max money next year when the cap is exploded. So imagine Rondo getting meaningful playoff minutes in San Antonio next year. He's running the
But you know what,
offense.
Q?
That's gonna work.
Yeah, he could. Hey, he could start in San Antonio because I think it's time for Tony Parker to come off the bench.
I think so too.
Maybe
I think.
yeah.
And by the way,
Start.
DeJounte Murray, that kid that they just
Yes.
drafted,
Yeah.
He is
it's murder.
nice.
Dude, it's
Yes.
murder. I'm telling you, that kid is so athletic. He's so long. It's gonna be ridiculous. I think it's him and Patty Mills are the future, and that's them for right now. But if I'm Rondo, I
Yeah.
take that minimum, and I take a David West deal, and I try to prove myself to the league that hey, I still have value in the NBA. A lot of guys are
I can
afraid
do
to
it
touch
on a
Rondo.
yeah.
A lot of guys are afraid
Yeah.
to touch Rondo because they think, well, he stopped playing defense years ago. He doesn't really care about when if he's losing, he's a locker room cancer. All this bad stuff they're saying against him. But if he can go play for Popovich, and Pop is a great coach. Pop will put the word out for you and help you find places to go. He did that for Steven Jackson too, after he helped him. But Pop will call guys for yo, Rondo's a good guy. Rondo's a good man. Rondo, he's gonna help you. So I think he needs to take that veteran minimum in San Antonio and try to help them out. That they're not stagnant, but help them out of their situation where we don't know if they're going to be great with Kawhi and LaMarcus or they're just going to be good in a couple of years, and he can help them continue to be great because he's only 29. He's still within years to get great years out of him.
Yeah. They can get 3 good years out of him. 3 great years.
Yeah. Or a great
All right,
year.
Pete. Pete, who's your guy?
Well, I got to go with one that's a sneaky kind of signing. I think he's actually going to thrive. Etuan Moore for the Pelicans. I think that's a great move for him. I really like Etuan Moore. He can play both two guard and the point. I know you got Drew Holiday there and you got Tyreek Evans, but basically that gives them a third option. Last year they kind of rolled with Norris Cole and Tim Frazier. This year I think it gives them a scoring punch off the bench, and he can also run the second unit if he needs to at the point guard spot.
And he can start in case of injuries.
He could start in case of injuries. I think Dellavedova is another kind of sneaky one because a lot of people sleep on Dellavedova as far as, well, he didn't do much in these playoffs. Last year was, a little bit of luck because of Steph Curry and all that. I don't buy that because I look at basically with Milwaukee, Michael Carter-Williams basically has still not developed a shot. He's so-so on defense. He's got length, but he's so-so on defense. And so this gives you somebody that can run the team, get the ball in spots, as well as being able to defend a Kyrie Irving or a Steph Curry consistently. And then the Bucks have all that length to back it up. Antetokounmpo, 6'11",
Yeah, and no one's talking. He can hit. He was over a 40% 3-point shooter.
Right.
Delly?
Yeah,
He shot over 40. I think he was top 10 this year in 3-point shooting percentage. He can make an open shot.
And last but not least, as far as what I think is an underrated signing, is Jared Dudley going to the Phoenix Suns. The reason I say that is because his locker room presence and then his ability to defend the 3 and the 4, and he can shoot from the outside, and just that veteran leadership to be able to mentor Marquise Chris and Dražen Bender, as well as mentoring TJ Warren at the 3. So
They have so many forwards.
Yeah, and Devin Booker, of course.
Yeah.
So
They have so many forwards, man. That's not even fun.
yeah, it's crazy. That a trade's got to be coming with Phoenix because they've got holdover from last year. They got Allen Williams. They've got, of course, Alex Len and Tyson Chandler at center. You're looking at Bender, Chris, and Warren, PJ Tucker, Reggie Bullock got traded. So who's the other? They have another small forward that's.
They had a forward, John Lure, but he signed with.
Yeah, he signed with the Pistons.
TJ Warren? Is it talking about TJ Warren?
Yeah, TJ Warren.
He's going to play a little 4, I think.
Well, he'll probably end up playing the 3 as their scorer off the bench, but because I think you still start either you roll with Tucker or Dudley.
Is Booker the 3? Booker's going to start next year, I think.
Booker's going to start at the 2. They're going to probably end up moving Bledsoe or Knight. They're going to have to pick one of those 2.
Yeah, because Booker. How do you bring your franchise guy off the bench? If you're Phoenix, Booker's your guy. Why do you bring him off the bench?
And if you're Phoenix,
go ahead.
Go Q.
No, go ahead, bro.
I was just going to say with Phoenix, with Alex Len and Tyson Chandler, you can't play Alex Len at the power forward spot for a long term. So you've got to figure out, are you going to pass the torch? What are you going to do? Because you don't draft Chris and Bender to sit both of them the entire year.
No. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to make a prediction for the season. It's the last thing I'm going to say. This trade deadline this season is going to be it's going to be ballistic. It's going to be insane. Because there are so many teams that are going to try to make the playoffs, especially if Cleveland is, not as good as they were, which I think they should be. But there's so many teams who are going to try to make moves to get into, the top 8 seed in the West or the East. So Phoenix is going to be one of those teams. Tyson Chandler will not finish the season as a Phoenix Sun. I promise you that. And I know Jahlil Okafor will not finish this season as a Sixer. And I know he might not even go into the season as a Sixer. So this trade deadline this year is going to be insane, man. And I know Bulls fans might be upset to hear this, but if the Bulls are not in position and they're just abysmal, Jimmy Butler's going to Boston.
I can see.
They got to trade Jimmy. I think they got to trade him now.
I can see.
Because, I said this like when you did the Dead End Sports podcast this week when I was in the chat. I said they got to trade Jimmy now. You're looking at a guy who's a top 10, top 15 player in the league. Do you want him spending his prime? Do you want him spending his prime years on a bad team? Because they're gonna be bad. Mike, you agree? They're gonna be bad the next 2 or 3 years. You're not gonna build around him. And by the time they're good, he's gonna be 30. Get something for him.
Yeah,
I agree.
As much as Chicago's gonna hate it, and I went to a couple Bulls games last year. As much as they're gonna hate it, man, you got to move him. I think they should have done the move to get Dunn and Zach LaVine. I don't know why in the hell the Bulls said no.
I thought Minnesota said no.
I don't know because
Minnesota said no because the Bulls wanted them. They wanted a pick and something else, and Minnesota was like, "No, we're not giving you any more."
Mike, I know you know Tibbs better than any of us. That couldn't have been Tibbs saying no, because Tibbs loved Jimmy.
I think it was probably like the ownership, like, okay, we're gonna give you 2 promising players and a pick for Jimmy. I think that was yes. I think he got beat.
Bro. And Tibbs probably like, what are you talking about? Obviously, yes, we have to do this move right now. I will say this though.
Yeah, Tibbs wants Jimmy.
I will say this though, bro. Like Minnesota. They are going to be really good. And
they're going to be scary.
Yes. I wanted Chris Dunn so bad in Philadelphia because he wanted to be a Sixer. Yeah. His dad's from North Philly. He plays defense. He got the juice like Tupac. Like, dude, like he had everything I was looking for in a player and in a franchise point guard. And for him to be going to Minnesota, that lineup is literally just going to be Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, Wiggins, Zhang, and Towns. And it's going to be murder in a couple of years because they have guys who can play multiple positions. They got guys who can space the
Yes.
floor. And they have literally
Yes.
the most athletic two in the league. There is no one more. He might be the most athletic dunker I've ever seen. I'm talking Vince Carter. And it's looking the same to me. Zach LaVine is that athletic. And Russell Westbrook said this. I'm sorry. James Harden said this a couple of weeks before his first dunk contest. He said, "Look out for Zach. I've seen some dunks. I'm gonna say this. Zach is more athletic, and he has a better feel for the game. He has a better jumper than Russell did his first 2 years in the NBA. And if his trajectory, if his trajectory is to keep going up."
Hey, Q, let me ask you this. You may be able to defend me on this. Is Minnesota a playoff team next year? I think they are.
If Minnesota can get Pau Gasol, yes, they're a playoff team.
I don't even think they need Powell because I don't think, even with Memphis, well, Memphis may be an 8, but I don't see Dallas as a playoff team, and I don't see the Rockets as a playoff team. That's two open spots. I think Minnesota can get one of them.
I don't know if the
Minnesota
Rockets
and
might
Utah.
surprise you, though.
Do you think Towns can play the 4?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Towns could. You could even use, and Pete and I have talked about this, and this is going to sound crazy. We thought Porzingis could play 3. I think if Porzingis can play some 3 a little bit, so can Towns. Towns is more talented.
So let me ask
Towns
you
could play the 3.
So Pete, let me ask you this: do you think that Minnesota, all right, if Colangelo calls them and tells them, "Yo, I've seen the film, this can play the 4. Let's get Rubio and Muhammad for Okafor."
Oh man.
Like who?
I do it.
Who says no?
If I'm Minnesota, I'd do it.
I mean, if I'm Minnesota, I would do it, but if I'm Philadelphia,
That's what I'm saying.
no, because you got Rubio there with Simmons. You've already got your passer. I don't need Rubio.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
if you give me Muhammad, Gorgie Zhang, and the expiring contract of Nikola Pekovic, then I'd take that over including Rubio because you can flip Zhang for somebody different.
Oh, you can move Pekovic because he's got an expiring.
And then you could flip Pekovic, at the deadline for, an asset or 2 later, off the bench. And then you got Muhammad, who I actually like. I think he's got a nice post game for a guard, but I think you can get a lot more for Okafor. After, basically, I don't think they're going to make a move until training camp comes, but I hope it's Okafor and not Noel, but it looks, from what I've read, more so that they're looking at moving Noel quicker than they move Okafor, so we'll see.
True.
Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up, guys. The only news that's really broken since we've been on, Kevin Durant basically making his decision in 24 to 36 hours. The Los Angeles Clippers re-signed Wesley Johnson for a 3-year, $18 million deal. Wow. And then Austin Rivers re-signed for a 3-year, I just had it, it looked like it was $25 million over 3 years. And it pissed off Jamal Crawford, so it looks like from reports, because Doc Rivers re-upped Austin Rivers first, that basically
we knew that was going to happen. Austin had the advantage.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's his son,
No, I take that back. 3 years, $35 million.
Oh, wow, okay.
Damn.
That's still a good deal. That's Jeremy Lin money.
Austin Rivers is getting $12 million a year to be a backup.
But that's Jeremy Lin money.
Yeah.
But Jeremy Lin's starting in Brooklyn, though. There's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also insurance in case in case CP3 goes down again. So I can kind of see it both ways.
Is Doc Rivers looking at Austin Rivers now, his son, to be the sixth man?
Oh man, I don't know what they're doing there because if all they do is re-sign their guys, they've lost Jeff Green and they lose Jamal Crawford. They are going to be struggling.
Yeah, they're going to be bottom 4 in the playoffs instead of top 4.
Minnesota top 6 now. Is it looking decent?
Hey,
well, they did get Bryce Johnson.
Bryce Johnson looked awful today.
Did he?
Yeah, he looked terrible. He couldn't stay in basically his guy that he was guarding. I'd have to look it back up who he was playing most of the second half. He got benched in the first half. Let's say that. Second half he started, but he was rough.
Well, you know those North Carolina guys don't ever pan out.
Bryce Johnson to me, Bryce Johnson is a poor man's. What's the guy from Milwaukee that played for North Carolina as well? Yeah, he's a poor man's John Henson. That's sad.
Yeah, that is sad. Let's see. He had 6 points, 6 rebounds, 4 fouls, 3 turnovers in 24 minutes. So
3 fouls and 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
Those are Michael Carter Williams numbers.
And shot 2 for 6 in the field.
You got the MCW stat line.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
The other one I think we touched on. I can't remember. Harrison Barnes, basically the 4-year max deal to the Mavericks. And Dwight Powell re-signed with the Mavericks as well. Shout out to Lance, who couldn't be on. I know he's basically going to probably try to hide for a little while until they can get some decent guys on that team. So they got a lot of question marks on the Mavericks right now. So I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Sorry, Lance.
No, they won't. It's all right.
Yeah, that's another team.
Yeah. All right, so that gives you – all right, do you think with Portland so far all they've done – I mean, it's a while to go with free agency. Would you put Minnesota over Portland right now?
Oh, no. Not yet. Not yet.
I knew Matt. That's why I asked it, because I knew Matt was
I actually think it's close. Because one thing you know, Mike knows this as much as anybody here, Minnesota is going to be a monster defensively.
Oh, yes. I know that for sure. He's going to be disciplined and they're going to play defense. Yeah. The thing is, I give guys who want to play D. Yeah, and I give Portland an edge simply because they have the experience of making the playoffs this past year. And arguably, if Curry doesn't come back for Game 4, that series goes longer. You know, that series goes at least
Portland,
6.
Hey, arguably, you could if Curry. Hey, arguably, Portland could have won that thing if Curry doesn't.
Right, if Curry doesn't play, Portland could have won that series. But yeah.
I think.
Hey, real quick, guys. I can't believe I didn't touch on this already, but I want to give a shout out to everybody that was in the chat room that joined us throughout the show. Los X23, Orlando Till, Dre Wardell Curry.
Wardell.
Let's see, just going down the list real quick. I know we had Adrian Lopez, Julian Lamenzo. Shout out to Julian. Scott OG.
Oh, Scott OG. What up, OG?
Yo, appreciate it, OG. So, just want to give a shout out to those guys. You know, we went a long time on this show. But I think it's well worth it. We covered a lot of good topics. Fellas, I'm going to let you guys roll through. Anything else you want to touch on? You know, the floor is yours. Just, about a minute to 2 each person. Just touch on whatever, life, video games, basketball, anything you want to touch on. Q, you go first, man.
First off, if you want to follow me on Twitter at QGotNoRings, once again, QGotNoRings. If you want to follow our podcast at OFFTHABNCH, Off the Bench. Follow my guy Ryan, RLS003. We just do podcasts on sports. We're still working on the microphones. We're still trying to get the quality better. So bear with us on our technical deficiencies, I guess. Closing thoughts is, just trust the process. As a Sixers fan, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. Trust me on that, because we have two potential. We have two potential mega stars. If Embiid can stay healthy with that personality, Philly's gonna love him. If he plays as hard as he did at Kansas and he's healthy, he's gonna be great. Simmons, same thing. We're gonna be all right, man. And I'm not so far in love with Brian Colangelo, because I know that at any turn he could trade Simmons for DeMar DeRozan at any moment. But I know that right now he's doing a good job, so I trust him. And I want us to go after Norman Powell in Toronto if we're going to trade Noel. So that's what I want.
Yeah.
Matt, go ahead. Man.
I'm gonna just keep it short. I'm gonna throw this out there. It's gonna sound crazy. We were, how the other day we talked about a shock in free agency, and we really haven't gotten it yet. I think now I think Kevin Durant may be a shock. I don't know where, but just maybe. I don't think it's OKC. I think Kevin Durant may shock us, much like LeBron kind of did. And I don't mean LeBron leaving. We knew he was going to probably leave, but a lot of us thought, Chicago, New York. No one was really thinking Miami, but I think KD shocks us.
Okay.
And we all want that too. We want a shock.
Okay. What you got, Mike?
I got trade deadline. Jimmy Butler will be on the Bulls roster opening day, but he may not be on the roster after the trade deadline. I think the Bulls fire sale continues. Gasol is going west. Golden State or San Antonio.
Yep, I think San Antonio.
And the Bulls will not see the playoffs until 2020 or when cars are all electric powered. So whichever comes first.
Damn, man, you're less optimistic than I am.
It's one of those things, man. You got to get bad to get good, because if this is how the Bulls could not attract a free agent for years. They finally got somebody quality in Gasol 2 years ago. Fired the coach and assembled the squad and just blew the whole thing up.
They did get Ben Wallace, who was considered a quality free agent back in the day. It just didn't work out.
The Bulls' first quality free agent since Dennis Rodman was Paul Gasol.
Hey, fair point.
So yeah, I'm gonna enjoy watching all the competitive teams play basketball this year, and I'm gonna quietly wrap all of my Chicago Bulls memorabilia and fan gear in plastic, so it can stay fresh and dust free until the next decade, or sell it on eBay, whichever is more important. And go Knicks, go Knicks.
Mike Skills is a Knicks fan now. Yes.
Uh-oh.
It's all about Derek. It's all about Derek.
Yeah. D Rose. Well, hopefully, for his sake, I hope he makes a comeback. I think.
Yeah.
I just the biggest thing I worry about with New York is how Porzingis is going to fit in there as far as his development and growth. But we'll see. My final thoughts are, I just want to say thank you to you guys. You carried the show. I think the diversity of the topics is great. Q, man, you're awesome. You came in and just, took it, and rolled with it. Definitely want to have all you guys on a regular basis, as much as we can. Spoiler alert, we're going to try to do, 2 times a week if we can. So, whoever's available, I'm going to shoot the links out. We'll get, as many quality guys as we can. Shout out to Brandon.
Hey, Pete, real quick. Let's give a shout out to, I was going to say, give a shout out to John Marcus, man, coming out of retirement.
Yeah, I was going to say that was going to be my next. Shout out to John for coming out. I know he works a lot. He's always grinding. That man puts in some serious hours. for working, but you know, hit him up a bunch of times, and he said, "Hey, if I'm available, I'll make it." He finally did. So shout out to John for coming on, even though he had some technical difficulties. We'll get him on again. Just shout out to the whole basketball community. I think you know, it's a sport where it can bring so many ethnic backgrounds together, and we just talk hoops and life, and it just you know, gels. You know, and you know, looking forward to having the great panel that we have, and just building, you know, from here, and many great shows to come. So appreciate you guys. So all right, well, I hope everybody's able to you know, catch some summer league action. Sixers play on Monday. I know it's the 4th. You know, we don't have to have our alcohol ready this year. We're gonna make some noise. So you know, until next time, I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll catch you early next week.
All right. Thank you.